those years as a superhero in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 851 Target. In a certain star field of the third cantilever of the Milky Way, a spaceship that looked like it had just experienced war was sailing alone in the boundless universe. The traces of corrosion and holes on the armor of the spaceship caused by high-temperature rays told what it had just experienced. The spaceship was cruising at a constant speed, and multiple jumps had almost exhausted its energy. The driver still needed to save some energy for emergencies. The spaceship was shaking a little while flying, just like the shaking caused by the idling of a motorcycle when it stopped to shut down. A little shaking, but generally nothing happened. The 5 members inside the spaceship were gathered at the bridge. They needed to hold a small meeting to discuss what to do next. I think we shouldn't provoke any of Thanos' men. This is unwise. We almost died. If it weren't for my good flying skills, we might not be able to fly back to the Milky Way. The voice was sharp and roaring, and it came from a raccoon. This raccoon spoke human language and behaved just like a human. The style of speaking and doing things was completely different from the cute raccoons that most people think of. He is more ferocious than a tiger, especially when he's baring his teeth. It is best to stay away from him. Rocket Raccoon is a little crazy. But if Rocket Raccoon is a little crazy, then none of his companions are normal people, or they are crazier than him. Because as long as they are normal people, they don't want to provoke Thanos. And Rocket Raccoon's companions are just such a group of mentally abnormal people. Peter Jason Quill, a Star-Lord who dances all day and thinks he is the little prince of dancing. The former adopted daughter and killing tool of Thanos, the assassin Gamora. This is a guy who didn't know how to live a normal life since she was a child, and was called the most dangerous woman in the universe. Note 1. There is also Groot, the tree man that Rocket Raccoon created from the severe mental hospital in the universe where he used to stay. Note 2. He was supposed to be a nurse in the mental hospital, and then he became crazy. Well, this is a real tree man. Note 3. There is also Drax the Destroyer, who is crazy all day long, but sometimes silent, and his only ideal is to kill Thanos' Drax the Destroyer. Note 4. Well, plus a former mental hospital experiment, Rocket Raccoon. He was supposed to be transformed into a nurse in a severe mental hospital in the galaxy. But obviously, he was also influenced by those crazy people. So this group of mentally ill people came together and formed a team. And surprisingly, this team is still alive and still exists. Peter Jason Quill, who is wearing a 16GB MP3 and listening to the golden songs of the earth in the 1980s, was dancing awkwardly. He was celebrating that his group had just escaped from death. Gamora, who was dressed in green and had a serious face, directly pulled off his earplugs. You are the captain, can't you be serious at this time? Star-Lord Quill is a handsome young man with a beautiful beard, slightly curly medium-length hair, and a pair of beautiful gray eyes. He was startled by Gamora's action, then waved his hand and said, "We have escaped, haven't we? We should celebrate. The star field of the third cantilever arm has reached the jurisdiction of the Nova Corps. Unless Thanos wants to provoke a full-scale war with the Nova Corps, his people will not be able to chase here. Our Guardians of the Galaxy just did a great job." Gamora shook her head. "We just captured the Centurion under Proxima Midnight." Note 5. And we need to run around for it. If we meet Proxima Midnight or Thanos, we are afraid we will all die. The muscular and now silent Drax the Destroyer interrupted, "If Thanos comes, I will kill him." As he spoke, he waved his strong arms. "Hey, I know you are strong. But please don't damage anything in the spaceship anymore, okay? If anything is damaged again, our reward for this mission will not be enough to pay for the repair of the spaceship." Star-Lord Quill immediately stopped Drax from taking any further action. This guy nicknamed the Destroyer is just as his name suggests. When he gets mad, he is an absolute destroyer. This guy has tried to assassinate Thanos twice, and although he failed both times, he did not die. He also caused havoc in Thanos' subbases several times. This made him famous, and most people did not dare to provoke him, and the name of the Destroyer became more and more famous. Although Rocket Raccoon has a bad temper, he is an excellent mechanic and pilot. He checked the structural condition of the spacecraft and observed the monitors. After confirming that there were no enemies in the surrounding star fields, he said, I say we are really crazy. The reward for this operation is not enough for us to go to the never-knowing realm. Note 6. A few times. The tree man Groot said in his rough voice, Groot. Star-Lord pointed at Groot, but asked Rocket Raccoon, what did he say? Rocket Raccoon said unhappily, he said you are crazy. Star-Lord shrugged, we are doing this to maintain cosmic justice. Thanos will be arrested one day, and the Nova Corps has held many meetings. They want to wipe out Thanos and his Black Order. Note 7. Gamora smiled contemptuously, probably just thinking about it. The Nova Corps influence is too wide. Except for a few cantilevers in the Milky Way, they can still fight against Thanos. They are no match for the Dark Order in other star fields. If you really want to uphold justice in the universe, the best way is to disband this team and inherit your father's throne. Your Highness the Crown Prince of the Spartan Empire. Note 8. Gamora looked at Star-Lord seriously and said. Star-Lord waved his hand, don't make fun of me, I don't have a good relationship with that old man. Ever since I found out that my uncle was the murderer of my mother, I don't like any royal disputes. I don't like the Spartan Empire. I like Earth more than Sparta. Then hand in this mission quickly, and let the Nova Corps deal with Proxima Midnight and her men. Then how about we go to Earth together? As a vacation, to see your hometown? And then to verify the authenticity of the news we captured before. Gamora looked at Star-Lord and said. Star-Lord Quill raised his eyebrows, are you talking about the information we captured before, about the fact that the Earthlings captured and ate the Skrulls? Gamora nodded, yes, whether this information is true or not, if you really like Earth so much, maybe you should go back. If it is true, you need to inform the Earthlings to be prepared, maybe the Skrull army will arrive in a few years. Or are you still afraid to go back to Earth? Afraid of seeing the place where your mother was killed? Star-Lord's eyes flickered. Note 1, Gamora's setting uses some parts of the movie. In the comics, Gamora is with Ronan the Guide and others, not Thanos' adopted daughter. However, the movie image of Guardians of the Galaxy is well shaped, and some settings of the movie are used here. Note 2, Rocket Raccoon comes from a space mental hospital. Later, the mental hospital was short of funds and staff. So the robots transformed the animals, hoping to create a group of animal nurses, and Rocket Raccoon was one of them. Note 3, some appropriate modifications have been made to Groot's origin. In the comics, he was originally the monarch of a planet. Note 4, the Destroyer is very strong. Just think of him as the cosmic version of the Hulk, not the funny guy in the movie. Note 5, Proxima Midnight, one of the 5 black generals under Thanos. The spear thrown with full force is equivalent to the power of a supernova explosion, only exists in the set power. Note 6, the knowing nothingness realm, which is where the Collector is in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, is a strange existence in the universe. Note 7, the Dark Cult composed of the 5 black generals under Thanos and the Dark Knights are Thanos' most powerful war machines. Note 8, Star-Lord is the child of the Prince of the Spartan Empire. The Prince of the Spartan Empire ran away from home and fell on Earth. Then he met Star-Lord's mother and fell in love with her. In the end, because the Spartan Empire was in crisis at that time, the prince returned to Sparta. Originally, he planned to find Star-Lord's mother after the crisis of the Empire was resolved, but his brother had a dispute over the throne. In the end, Star-Lord's uncle sent people to kill Star-Lord and his mother. Star-Lord escaped death, but his mother died. Star-Lord Quill holds a grudge against this. Chapter 852 Liang Fifan's Ambition. The last survivor of the dragon race, the extraordinary dragon Liang Fifan, who was trapped on Earth, has been busy recently. Ever since he fell to Earth due to an accident and was controlled by Mandarin Zhang Tuang when he was injured and at his weakest, the extraordinary dragon Liang Fifan has been planning to escape and take revenge on the Earthlings all the time. Originally, he wanted to get some electronic components from Huaqiangbei, Shenzhen, and then make a communicator that could barely send a distress signal, so as to ask for help from his own people and ask them to get him out of the Earth. However, the quality of electronic components in Huaqiangbei was uneven, and they were all civilian products. Even if some of them looked like military industrial-grade products, they were actually imitations of civilian products. As a result, Liang Fifan's plan has been delayed. In order to raise funds and keep a low profile, Liang Fifan could only expand his funds by robbing passers-by who were running at night. For a period of time, the public security reputation in Xiaxia, Shenzhen was extremely poor. However, Liang Fifan later found the traces of the Skrulls, and finally found the Skrulls who had turned into beef cattle. After fighting with the dragon warriors Thor and Li Ji, he was inexplicably sent to the spaceship that the Skrulls had crashed into the Earth. From this, he learned that his race was destroyed, and it was the Skrulls who did it. This made Liang Fifan very angry. Now for Liang Fifan, 2 races have been listed on his hatred list and must be eliminated. One is the Earthlings who have abused him for many years, and the other is the Skrulls who slaughtered his own race. It is impossible for him to compete with 2 huge races by relying on his own strength. Even if Thanos relies on one person alone, there is no way to say that he can definitely kill a race with a population of billions. There will always be fish that slip through the net. The best way to eliminate the 2 races is to provoke the relationship between the 2 races and let them attack each other and lose both. Just like the Kree and the Skrulls, the war lasted for thousands of years, and countless civilians and soldiers of the 2 races died on the battlefield like a purgatory. Only by letting the Earthlings and the Skrulls kill each other can the resentment in Fifan Long's heart be eliminated. The more people from the 2 tribes died, the happier he was. So he reported the coordinates of the Earth and the incident of the Skrulls turning into cows, and he was waiting for the arrival of the Skrull army. Of course, out of selfishness, Fifan Long did not pass on all the intelligence information about the Earth. Because in Fifan Long's view, the strength of the Earth itself is on the weaker side. If he told the Skrulls all the trump cards he knew about the Earth, then the Earth would be doomed. The Skrull Empire will definitely destroy the Earth with a crushing blow, which is not what Fifan Long wants to see. What he wants to see is to drag the 2 populations into a quagmire of evenly matched war. Earthlings are a bit weak. Fifan Long was a little worried. If the Skrulls send a lightly equipped advance fleet, even if it takes 20 years to reach Earth, the Earthlings may not be able to defeat it. Although there are a group of guys called superheroes on Earth, they can only deal with super Skrulls. Their role is too small in the vast cosmic war in the vast sea of stars. If the Earthlings are still so weak, they will not be able to give the Skrulls a hard blow. Fifan Long deliberately concealed the strength of the Earthlings and the intelligence he gave to the Skrulls, hoping that the Skrulls would underestimate the enemy and send a relatively small advance force. Then the Earth side will fight back with all its strength. The best result is that the Earth will be severely damaged, but all the Skrull advance forces will be killed. Then the Skrull Emperor will be furious, and then the Stargate will be built to clear the way for the army. Fifan Long estimated that it would take 70 to 80 years, or even 100 years to complete the preliminary work for the second full-scale war. At this time, the Earthlings should be able to research some of the technology of the first Skrull fleet. If the battle is fought at home, the Earthlings may still be able to fight. At least the more people die between the 2 sides, the deeper the hatred will be, and the more difficult it will be to untie this knot. And this is exactly the result Liang Fifan needs. Let the 2 sides fight for hundreds of years. Even when the time is right, Liang Fifan feels that he can encourage the Kree people. Let the Kree people sit on the mountain and watch the tiger fight, and finally wipe out all the Skrull people and Earthlings. As for what benefits he will get from it? No need. As long as the Skrull people and Earthlings are all dead, this is his biggest benefit. The so-called hatred is greater than the sky, or harming others without benefiting oneself probably refers to Liang Fifan. Since sending a one-way distress signal to the Skrull planet, Liang Fifan has been busy running around the Earth. Every time he arrives at a place, local night runners have to be careful, and the law and order rate will suddenly drop seriously. Liang Fifan's busyness is naturally not to see more of the scenery of the Earth before the Earth is destroyed, but to conduct a more in-depth investigation and analysis. Analyze the level gap between the Earth and the Skrull people. The Earth is too weak. This is the conclusion Liang Fifan came to. Although the Earthlings have seen the strength of the aliens, Thor in disguise, in the Battle of New York, and the governments around the world have consciously begun to unite and cooperate more closely. But this world is still too weak. Liang Fifan did not know that there was an Illuminati underground in this world, nor did he know the existence of the Venus base and fleet. Judging from the current strength of the Earth alone, Liang Fifan can only evaluate the Earth as a primary cosmic civilization, and it is still the kind that has just started. This refers to a civilization that has just stepped out of its mother planet and started a primary exploration of the universe. For example, the Earth has just established a small mining site and a not very large living circle on the moon. The Earthlings may not even be able to leave the solar system now. If the Skrulls' advanced troops come in a dozen years, the Earthlings may not be able to defeat them at all. The Skrulls are advanced cosmic civilizations, and the star fields they occupy are spread all over the Andromeda galaxy. As a medium-level cosmic civilization, the dragon people only resisted the opponent's offensive for hundreds of years, and then they were exterminated. Can the primary cosmic civilization of the Earth withstand the Skrulls? Liang Fifan has to put a big question mark here. After thinking for a long time, Liang Fifan made a bold decision. Earthlings are annoying, especially Zhang Tong. But in the final analysis, what happened to him on Earth was just a personal experience. And the Skrulls are Liang Fifan's unforgettable hatred. They wiped out all his people. His relatives, friends, etc., all disappeared in this war. The elders of the Dragon Elders Council who protected him were made into specimens by the Skrulls, and they were set up in the Royal City Museum of the Skrull capital planet in the form of dragon specimens. This is a merit for the Skrulls, but a shame for Liang Fifan. Earthlings are insidious, cunning and greedy. Everything bad in this world can be found in them. Liang Fifan commented on the Earthlings. But compared to these Earthlings, the Skrulls are even more disgusting. If possible, I want to turn them all into cattle, turn them into food circulating in the universe and never turn over. Liang Fifan clenched his fists. At this moment, he has made a decision to improve the level of science and technology civilization on Earth. Does it sound a bit like aiding the enemy? But who is Liang Fifan's biggest enemy? Chapter 853, Opportunity, Solar System Defense Circle, and Fleet Departure. Since the last incident of destroying the Hydra headquarters, Dr. Bruce Banner has returned to his normal life. His so-called normal life is to build a super high-speed railway in Eurasia and deal with various engineering and technical problems. He doesn't need to worry about political issues. All Eastern European affairs are led by Latvia, and in Asia, China has shown great enthusiasm for this new super high-speed railway. They will coordinate all things in Asia by themselves, and Dr. Banner doesn't need to worry about this. The current life is what Dr. Banner likes, although the super high-speed railway across Eurasia needs to pass through various complex routes, including a plateau at an altitude of 4,000 meters, permafrost, high humidity and high salt tunnels, etc. This series of environmental problems is very harsh, and Dr. Banner needs to lead his team to work hard to complete these things. But Dr. Banner likes this kind of life, which is more comfortable for him. He really feels that the world is advancing and reforming under his impetus. Technology makes people better, and Dr. Banner feels that he is realizing this ideal bit by bit. I like this place. There is enthusiasm and passion here. I have seen countless young people working hard for their ideals. Dr. Banner said this to the assistant beside him while standing on the plains of Ukraine. The assistant of the Kiev railway section in Ukraine is a girl, a very beautiful girl. Her name is Katyusha. She is a top student who graduated from the University of Kiev. Dr. Banner has heard about her deeds. She gave up her good job in Kiev and returned to her rural hometown, wanting to change the face of her hometown and lead everyone to prosperity. When she learned that the super high-speed railway plan was recruiting workers in Ukraine, she came to this project again because she knew that this project meant more to the country and her hometown. She is a young person with ideals, and Dr. Banner admires this outstanding young girl. The section that Katyusha is responsible for assisting is a section from Kiev to the capital of Latvia, Dum City. Her main job is to monitor, record and analyze data. The construction in Ukraine is not difficult, so Katyusha, who is not very professional, compared to those old engineers, can handle the tasks here well. Dr. Banner always takes some time to do surprise inspections on various sections of the road. Today, he came to this section of the road in Ukraine. As an assistant, Katyusha is obliged to accompany Dr. Banner to inspect the road section. Katyusha walked beside Dr. Banner and listened to Dr. Banner's sigh. She smiled and said, "Some people are not so noble. Many people are just for wages. Ukraine's current economic situation is not good. A large number of banks have gone bankrupt. If it weren't for the construction of this super high-speed railway and the low-interest loans from Latvia, I'm afraid Ukraine's unemployment wave will spread across the country and finally break out into a riot." Dr. Banner is naturally very clear about this, because the new Eastern European alliance formed by Latvia and Russia fought a battle before, and Ukraine suffered a lot of losses. In addition, the country's own economic situation is problematic, and Ukraine is in a difficult situation when the two are added together. After that, Dr. Banner also vaguely knew some things. Lychee or Tony revealed some things in an occasional chat. They seem to be going to take action on some industries, and it is said that those industries are related to Hydra. Because cleaning up these industries will inevitably cause another wave of unemployment. Several mining companies in Ukraine have been affected. If it weren't for the fact that the super high-speed railway requires a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of infrastructure requires a lot of manpower. Dr. Banner believes that the unemployment caused by dealing with the Hydra industry alone can plunge Ukraine into turmoil or even civil war. Dr. Banner shook his head and said to Katyusha, "The most basic thing for people's life, but people's spirit is also very important. Do you know the Great Depression in the United States?" Katyusha nodded. This is a piece of history that almost all students who have attended middle school know. Dr. Banner pointed to a busy construction site not far away, where a large number of workers were working, and there were piles of spare materials and various mechanical equipment. You know the Great Depression in the United States, and I think you also know Roosevelt's New Deal. But do you know that the Great Depression was the most glorious period for the American publishing industry? Katyusha really didn't know about this. Dr. Banner pointed to the workers who were working and said, at that time, people could not even afford 3 meals a day, and a large number of people were willing to endure all kinds of hardships to find a job. If you have seen the Italian post-war movie The Bicycle Thief, then you will understand the situation of American workers at that time. But under such circumstances, the publishing and news industries in the United States have entered an unprecedented peak. As long as people can read, most workers at that time had some basic reading and writing skills. Most of them will buy a newspaper to read every day. And in those depressed years, the publishing industry also published best-selling books such as Angels Look Homeward, The Great Gatsby, Time in the River, Tender's the Night, and so on. Dr. Banner said with a smile, "It's strange, isn't it? Everyone is not even able to eat enough, but they are willing to pay a considerable amount of money, compared to buying food, to buy books." Katyusha did not know much about this period of history. In fact, most people are not aware of the inexplicable prosperity of the publishing industry during the Great Depression. Seeing Katyusha nod, Dr. Banner continued, "People always need to have some spirit when they are alive. It sounds unreliable, but in the hard times, people can survive and finally get out of the predicament. In addition to those small amounts of materials, they rely more on the power of human nature, character, will and spirit. This is true everywhere." Katyusha smiled and shook her head. "I really don't know if I can finish reading my favorite human comedy if I'm hungry. Maybe I will sell it for money to buy a loaf of bread." Katyusha smiled a little cunningly. Dr. Banner said seriously, "I believe you won't, at least not before you starve to death. I heard about your boyfriend's story on the construction site. The young man named Kurno. I heard that when others were resting, he was gambling and drinking, but he was holding how the steel was tempered in hot snow and reading these books. I believe in the saying that people are divided into groups. I think you are the same with such a boyfriend, Katyusha." Dr. Banner blinked at Katyusha. Katyusha did not deny that Dr. Banner said that Kurno was her boyfriend, although it seemed that there was a big gap between the two. Katyusha was a technical supervisor, and it would be normal for her to become a manager in the future. Kurno was just a technician now. Speaking of which, there is still a big gap between their identities. Dr. Banner walked on the Ukrainian plains and looked at the busy construction site in the distance. Kurno was probably one of the busy people. Dr. Banner suddenly said to Katyusha, "I want to give Kurno a chance." "What?" Katyusha didn't come back to her senses for a while. Dr. Banner turned his head and looked at Katyusha. "I said I want to give Kurno a chance. A chance that may be difficult for him. I heard that he used the exomechanical engineering skeleton on the construction site very well." The exomechanical engineering skeleton that Dr. Banner mentioned was an exoskeleton modified from the military elf armor by the Osborne Group for engineering use. This exoskeleton is a good helper for engineering machinery. It is not an exaggeration to say that a worker who can operate this exoskeleton well is worth 10. Some projects must even be completed by workers wearing mechanical exoskeleton. Katyusha heard Dr. Banner say that he wanted to give Kurno a chance. Although she didn't know what the chance was, Katyusha spoke first. "Yes, he is really good at operating the exomechanical engineering skeleton." Dr. Banner picked up a small stone from the ground and threw it into the sky. Whoosh! There was a sharp sound of breaking wind, and the stone disappeared in the blink of an eye. Katyusha wanted to dodge. She was afraid that the stone would fall and hide her. Dr. Banner said mischievously, "Don't worry, Katyusha, I think this stone can probably fly into the geosynchronous orbit, as long as it is not completely burned when breaking through the atmosphere. It will not fall down. Dr. Banner pointed to the sky and said, the construction of the first starport of mankind, Sky City, is about to begin. It is very difficult to work in the universe. The Stark Group has contracted the technical support for the entire project. But we still need a large number of skilled workers, those who can wear engineering machinery armor and do all kinds of delicate work. I think Kurno is a good candidate. You can talk to him. If he is willing, he will become the first batch of starport builders and residents. Katyusha looked at the blue sky, then nodded in the direction of the construction site. Kurno is one of the first candidates for the starport builders. But he is not just a candidate for the builder. Dr. Banner has deeper ideas behind him. Especially after Li Ji found him the day before yesterday and talked about the Illuminati. Dr. Banner expressed his willingness to join the Illuminati, and he proposed the first motion, you asked me to come here to help and decentralize some power. The other bigwigs in the Illuminati nodded. In fact, if everything Nightwalker introduced is correct, then the Illuminati has done too much? Even the mother's care for the cubs is time limited. We need to protect the Earth. But we also need to let ordinary people on Earth gradually learn to protect themselves. Control and deception are only a means, not the ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to let go, or even disband the Illuminati. Here I propose that maybe we should cultivate some reserve forces among ordinary people. Dr. Banner's first speech after joining the Illuminati was resounding, and he did not feel strange or alienated from this organization. Since you asked me to come here, and you asked me to give my opinion, then I will naturally give my opinion. Dr. Banner's idea is very simple. There was not much opposition to his first proposal within the Illuminati. After discussion, Captain Rogers concluded, a small-scale pilot project first. And Kurno is one of the pilot projects. However, no matter how long it takes for Dr. Banner's proposal and his promotion of self-protection on Earth to see results, the resolutions made by the Illuminati will not stop. The plan for the Solar System Defense Circle is still proceeding in an orderly manner. Especially after the two older children were sent to learn music, the legendary blacksmith Magneto Fake Medicine and the king of Lego Assembly Max worked more efficiently. So far, 58 unmanned space defense stations and a large starport have been built. The starport is set up in the orbital belt of Venus, and the space defense stations are placed between several celestial bodies from Pluto to Neptune and Uranus. Although the number is still small, the preliminary defense fortifications of the solar system made by the Illuminati have taken shape. Next, Tony and the legendary blacksmith will make persistent efforts. They are ready to arm the entire solar system to the teeth to deal with any possible sudden danger. The construction of the Venus fleet is also increasing in an orderly manner, which is what Li Ji strongly requested. Although the Illuminati's military force is now overwhelmingly superior to that of the Earth. But Li Ji's target has never been the people on Earth, but those who may have bad intentions towards Earth. Although the story plot is very different, Loki will not open the space gate to let the Chitauri enter the Earth. But everything needs to be prepared, and it is best to have no enemies. If there are enemies, then we must tear them apart completely. The third cantilever of the Milky Way, the non-staff members of the Nova Corps, the Guardians of the Galaxy have been renovated. Star-Lord Quill finally embarked on a journey to Earth under the persuasion of Gamora. Although it was the place where his mother died, although it was difficult to face, it had to be faced after all. Just as Star-Lord's Guardians of the Galaxy embarked on a journey home, at the border of the Milky Way. The Chitauri, known as space pirates, welcomed the envoys of the Skrulls, the rulers of the Andromeda Galaxy. The Skrulls agreed to increase the price a little. After agreeing to give 2 more resource planets, the leader of the Chitauri, who made a living by plundering, finally smiled. His face that looked like a half-orc was even more scary when he smiled. Facing the Skrull envoy, especially after receiving half of the deposit paid by the envoy, a star map, recording the location of the resource planet with half of the transaction amount, originally the territory of the Skrulls, the half-orc smiled even more brightly. He had already read the information of the Earthlings, and they were just a fragile civilization. The space locusts were already on guard, and they were going to bring the war to the Earth. Thousands of King Insect spaceships were already heading to the Star Sea. Chapter 854 The Pot Flying to Saturn. The Chitauri don't know what kind of preparations and plans the Earthlings, whom they look down upon, are making. In fact, Tony and the legendary blacksmith are planning to build a defense circle with a structure similar to that of a Dyson sphere. With the sun as the core center, a multi-track, fully three-dimensional defense circle structure will be built. The entire plan will build 12 large starports and a larger number of space defense systems, in order to protect the Earth in all directions. The Earth has just crossed the threshold of the primary civilization of the universe, and it will be very vulnerable if it encounters a real enemy. Everyone in the Illuminati said that the Earth's defense capabilities should be strengthened. For example, Dr. Banner, who just joined, said, "I read the trilogy of past events on Earth recommended to me by Jason. Although I don't completely agree with all the author's views, I still agree with some of them. We can't be sure whether the enemy in the dark is good or bad, and the first element of civilization is development, and development is about resources. I can't answer the ultimate question about the universe, but at least we can't let the Earth civilization end in our generation. When we step into the universe and move towards the primary civilization of the universe, we are actually like lighting a bonfire in the dark forest. We are announcing our existence." Dr. Banner said at the meeting. "This is almost inevitable. Compared with those advanced civilizations in the universe, they will always find us. Is it war or peace?" Dr. Banner shook his head and said nothing. Li Ji took over the topic at the right time. "I believe that the existence of peace is never unconditional. Putting aside different civilization systems, what about humans alone? In the years of civilization since we have recorded history, war has occupied most of our time. We have fought for thousands of years. Maybe we still need to fight for thousands of years. As long as we are alive, we may have to fight all the time, until the day we fall down, then we will no longer need to fight. With the existence of Thor, we know that there are many alien civilizations in this universe." Li Ji pointed at Thor. Thor rarely dozed off in the meeting. "Including those civilizations we have seen, and those civilizations that specialize in looting for a living. Those civilizations are the objects we need to be seriously guarded against." Thor nodded seriously and said, "Yes, we discussed this kind of thing in the previous chat with Jason. The gods of Asgard also have believers in other civilizations. Some civilizations that believe in Asgard have prospered, some have weakened, and some have perished. Gods are not omniscient and omnipotent." Thor is now very humble. "I have saved several civilizations on the verge of destruction, and I also know some stories about space pirates. Especially those pirates wandering on the border of the Milky Way. One of them is very famous, or infamous. They are called Chitauri. They are the locusts of the universe. Many civilizations have been destroyed by them." The words Thor said today were actually guided by Li Ji when he chatted with him intentionally or unintentionally. Because Li Ji and others still know very little about civilizations outside the Earth, but Thor and Loki, the two brothers and sisters, have seen many civilizations in the universe. Although Thor's IQ is not as good as Loki, and he can't analyze the forms of several major civilization systems in the universe, he at least knows some things. These things are still very instructive for the Illuminati bosses who only live on Earth. Although Li Ji can't remember the details of the Marvel stories he watched in his previous life, he at least remembers the Chitauri who caused great damage to the Earth, New York, in the first part of Avengers. Although according to the performance in the movie, those Chitauri seem to have only destroyed Manhattan and Long Island, which is not an alien invasion at all. But in this real world, Li Ji doesn't think that the invasion of alien civilizations would be so easy. The Chitauri are space locusts, and the Muds, note, are the most warlike war maniacs in the Milky Way. These two civilizations are the most dangerous. They are also the first level that most civilizations that have just entered the form of cosmic civilization need to pass. Thor said everything he knew. Captain Rogers, Tony, Dr. Hank and Professor Charles, as well as Li Ji and Banner, were listening carefully. It was not until Thor finished speaking that Li Ji stood up and added a few words. In fact, the Milky Way we are in is still a relatively friendly galaxy, because this is the headquarters of the Nova Corps. Although they may not be in the cantilever where our solar system is located, the Nova Corps is like a cosmic policeman who can handle most things and reduce the crime rate. Li Ji knew that it was not strange for the Nova Corps, because in the previous disaster relief operation in Florida, the Night Watch Alliance was dispatched because they were worried about Mindy and Laurie's premature love. Not only did they catch the rebellious second-rate imitation master, but they also caught the horse-headed boy Sam. Li Ji privately asked Sam many questions, including the origin of his abilities. Sam was just a child and was not good at mental resistance. Li Ji could get everything he wanted to know without any tricks. Sam didn't know much, but it was not a small amount. His father was a former member of the Nova Corps and had adventured in the universe. In the end, he returned to Earth to live an ordinary life because of his wife's pregnancy. Note, he told many of his real experiences to Sam, who was still a child, as bedtime stories. Sam used to think of them as stories until he found the Nova helmet left by his father. He believed what his father said. We know that there is a Nova core in the Milky Way. Do we need to try to contact and communicate with this core? If Sam's father was once a member of the Nova Corps, then this organization should have known about the existence of the Earth long ago. Li Ji proposed this idea. But Tony quickly rejected this. No, I don't think so for now. I don't approve of any first contacts before we have completely dealt with the Earth problem. We need more preparation. Captain Rogers looked at Tony and asked, For example, it's time for Nightwalker to contact Dr. Doom to see his attitude, and there are follow-up matters in Tuvalu that need to be dealt with, and then there are more interstellar spaceships. There is also Magneto's fake medicine, and the first batch of products of the X-Beautiful project prepared by Dr. Hank. We have to deal with all these things. Tony looked at everyone and said, One more thing. Tony turned his head and looked at Li Ji. If an alien civilization really invades the Earth, our fleet and defense system will inevitably be exposed. Have you thought about how to deal with it? Don't tell me that you plan to pinch your nose and acquiesce to our existence at that time. This is not your style. Li Ji laughed directly at Tony Stark's question, and said without disguising, I know what you are worried about. The issue of the ownership of the Venus fleet, right? Politicians on Earth can break their heads over this. But I said, what if this fleet has nothing to do with the existing political system on Earth? What? Tony asked with doubt. Li Ji smiled and said, Don't forget, I have already contacted Black Bolt. He has also expressed some willingness to cooperate. I want him to do a small favor, he won't mind. Isn't the Inhumans' capital Attilan flying between Saturn's satellite belt? If Black Bolt is willing to lead the Inhumans back to the sequence of Earth civilization, then I don't mind giving them a glorious title, such as, the remnants of the last civilization have been silently guarding the Earth. Li Ji said his thoughts with a smile. The others in the Illuminati vaguely saw Blackpot flying towards Saturn. Note, the Muds are another warlike alien race and are as unwelcome as the Chitauri. In addition, please refer to the previous article for the story of the Nova Corps and Sam and his father. I have written in detail in the previous article, so I will not repeat it here to avoid you saying that I am watering down the word count. Chapter 855, Prelude to the Storm. Since Tuvalu declared independence, the world has undergone a series of dramatic changes. First, China and Tuvalu signed a strategic treaty of friendship and mutual trust. The content of the treaty does not need to be explained in detail, but everyone knows what is going on. China is a country that has traditionally had a good relationship with mutants. There are some mutants in the central leadership, and their attitude towards Tuvalu is a bit like the Jews' attitude towards Israel. Of course, there is still a little difference. At least they will not regard Tuvalu as their own motherland, which is different from the feelings of the Jews towards Israel. At most, there are a lot of extra points in terms of feelings and sympathy. However, with China's endorsement, coupled with Russia's silence on this matter, due to the technical problems of controlled nuclear fusion, Russia is somewhat controlled by others. In addition, Tuvalu showed its military force, acting, when it wiped out Hydra in the Atlantic. The new President Katie made it clear that she held an olive branch in one hand and a shotgun in the other. She hopes to establish peace rather than war. Of course, she is not afraid of war. Because of this humble and unyielding statement, the international community was a little hesitant about the establishment of Tuvalu, and did not respond immediately. In particular, the time period of Tuvalu's public statement was very coincidental, just before April. And a big event will come in April this year. That is, Dr. Reed on the Moon will return to Earth with almost 2 tons of helium-3 purified ore. Dr. Reed has expressed in the communication on Earth that the lunar plan is proceeding in step. Although it sounds small, only more than 2 tons of helium-3 ore are mined in a year. But we should look at this issue from another perspective. Although Tony Stark provided Dr. Reed and others with very advanced tools and various intelligent machines, so that the 4 of them can complete the workload of an entire engineering team. But the lunar operation is not comparable to the Earth after all. It takes a lot of energy to build a basic camp and a basic mine in a year. There is also a preliminary refining plant. Although everything is fully automatic, there are only 4 people on the moon after all. In addition, the 4 doctors in the moon have their own scientific research projects. He agreed to Tony to come to the moon to build a forward base because Tony promised to provide him with a large amount of research funds and to build a physical laboratory for him on the moon. So Dr. Lee's main energy is still spent on research. The basic mine he built is really just the foundation. But the camp has been built, and the next step is that the moon can accommodate the daily life of about 100 people. The first year of construction is just to lay the foundation, and the second year is the real expansion. And there is another point to see. That is, the energy contained in the isotope helium-3 is higher than any known energy on the Earth, and it is clean and environmentally friendly and absolutely pollution-free. According to the current energy consumption standard of the Earth, 100 tons of helium-3 energy supply can meet the current energy demand. Of course, 100 tons is just the current number. In fact, when humans can really mine helium-3 energy on a large scale, human demand for energy will inevitably explode. Maybe by then, the human population will still be so large, but the demand for energy consumption will increase 3 times or even 5 times. According to Tony and Dr. Banner's estimates, the industrial transformation brought about by the new energy of helium-3 will lead to a great revolution in traditional industries. In particular, many things that originally seemed not worth consuming energy can be done. Because when helium-3 can be mined on a large scale, the price of energy will be further reduced. Energy reduction means that more energy can be invested in agricultural planting, livestock breeding, various mines and mechanical engineering. Use energy consumption to replace other costs that would otherwise be paid, such as setting stricter environmental standards in the manufacturing industry. The reason why many industries are not environmentally friendly is that it is not cost-effective to invest too much energy to do them. Therefore, energy costs can only be converted into environmental costs. For example, sewage treatment, air treatment, etc. In fact, Stark Group and Osborne Group are the first companies to think about these aspects, and more advanced environmental protection equipment has begun to be deployed globally. The concept of ecological Earth has begun to take shape. We need to be more advanced, but also more natural. According to incremental estimates, 100 tons of helium-3 energy is only enough to replace the current annual energy consumption of the Earth. But we know that this scale is not enough, and it will definitely need to be expanded in the future. I expect that after the helium-3 is mined this year, it will trigger the greatest impact on global energy. Now is the last moment of transformation. Tony said at the rare meeting of the company's directors. 100 tons is definitely not enough. In the next 10 years, I predict that human civilization will enter an era of explosion. It is no longer an empty talk to let people all over the world enjoy the living standards of Nordic countries. We have the foundation to achieve this goal. But we need more energy. In the next 10 years, we will need at least 1,000 tons or even 3,000 tons of helium-3. Our energy demand will expand dozens of times. Tony Stark is trying to persuade the board of directors to allocate more funds to new energy. He has made up his mind. He wants to use all the energy of the Stark Group on new energy. In fact, it is not just Tony and the United States who are doing this. New energy is related to the future of the country. This matter needs to race against time. One step slower means all steps slower. For example, China has relocated a city of hundreds of thousands of people as a whole and requisitioned all the land here. And hundreds of thousands of civil engineering and infrastructure workers have been invested in the construction site. There are also millions of people from top to bottom, from south to north across the country producing various supporting facilities. And 10% of the country's steel, cement, and various resources have been mobilized. They are building a giant controlled nuclear fusion power station. If this power station named Surin No. 1 is fully operational, it can meet almost 70% to 80% of China's electricity needs. The first phase of the project was rushed, with 4 shifts on the construction site, and the machines did not stop even when people rested. Because the construction period of the first phase was getting closer and closer, the higher-ups required that the first phase of the project must be completed before April. They did not require the amount of electricity generated, but they required that it could be turned on. This was not a national face-saving project, but an invisible competition. The first phase of helium-3 was only 1.5 tons. According to the division of the 5 permanent members at the time, the amount of helium-3 that each country could get was limited. So it is always better to be one step ahead and one step faster. Otherwise, You will have to wait for a whole year for the second batch of helium-3 to be shipped back to Earth. Britain, France and Germany worked together to make their arc reactor, and the US government asked Tony to provide technical support. The core content was kept confidential, and the maintenance and daily operations after the construction were completed also needed to be done by the people of the Stark Group. Just like the core weapons that the Stark Group provided to NATO countries in the past. It feels a bit controlled by others, but it is better to have it than not. Britain, France and Germany accepted it with a pinch of their noses. At least their situation is better than Russia. Russia's technology comes from China, and China is even more strangled. In addition to infrastructure projects, Russia cannot participate in the manufacturing of almost all core components. Looking at the treatment of the Bear family, Britain, France and Germany feel that they are still relatively lucky. In addition to the Ark spacecraft launched by Tony Stark at that time, Doom of Latveria also launched a ship. However, Doom has never reported their situation to the international community. And the landing site of the Latvian spacecraft is thousands of kilometers away from Dr. Reed and his team. It is unlikely that they will go to see each other's situation. Except for the countries of the new Eastern European Union formed by Latvia, other countries cannot expect Doom to share some helium-3. And the transformation around helium-3 new energy has begun to appear. It seems that overnight, there has been a blowout trend in new energy vehicles. Major international car manufacturers have begun to slowly relax the research and development of the next generation of gasoline and diesel vehicles, and put all their energy into electric vehicles. Tesla, which was originally the only one in the electric vehicle market, suddenly suffered a huge impact. When Toyota, Honda, GM, BMW, Mercedes and other major manufacturers put all their energy on the electric vehicle market, their energy and technical reserves are quite amazing. Sometimes it's not that they won't do it, it's just that they don't want to do it. After all, the market determines capital, and capital determines the direction of technology. Although there may be some losses in the short term, these century-old companies have a longer-term vision. They are competing for the market 10 years later, and then the real winner will be decided. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of the world's changes. The super high-speed railway plan driven by new energy has begun to take shape. The world's first short-distance super high-speed railway has begun to open to traffic. The railway from Dum, the capital of Latvia, to Dum Valley, the most scenic tourist destination in Latvia, has been open to traffic. Although it is only a short 100 kilometers, although it is more of an experimental nature, and although the speed has been repeatedly reduced to ensure the safety of the first opening. But when the passengers in an extremely comfortable state, the train only took 10 minutes to run a distance of 100 kilometers, this achievement still shocked people all over the world. Some people have already smelled the smell, a smell of change. In China, the richest man named Jack Ma was the first to realize this. Because his business platform supports the world's largest and most logistics practitioners. New ways of delivering goods have emerged. Perhaps the logistics method of building warehouses all over China by our competitors will eventually fail. And more manufacturing companies have seen new opportunities from it. The integration of Eurasia seems to have taken shape. Can we take advantage of it? Or even give it a push? Some people are watching, but some have already jumped out and started wrestling first. The world is changing, the timing is very coincidental, and everyone is very busy. So the establishment and announcement of Tuvalu happened at this point in time, so that everyone couldn't spend all their experience on them. For many people, the world is already in chaos. The changes are so fast that it's hard to keep up. In just a few years, it seems that the Earth is about to turn upside down. Mutants set up their own country? Well, it's big news, and it's just big news. If you have time to pay attention to this, you might as well consider how to find your new position in this turbulent era. Is the establishment of Tuvalu really just a piece of news? Instead of something more profound? Before everyone noticed, a storm that was about to sweep across human change had begun to brew quietly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 856 The Wind Rises. Bob is a mutant, nicknamed Submarine. The nickname comes from his mutant ability. He can breathe air with his ears. This is really a useless ability. Bob always thinks so. Unless he cheats to participate in some breath-holding competitions, he really can't think of what use this ability has for him. He even lost his job as a chef because he is a mutant. Because his new boss is a guy who discriminates against mutants. Go to hell. You don't like me, and I don't like you, you dirty bastard. When leaving the restaurant where he had worked for more than 10 years, Bob cursed, "Don't think that you are the only restaurant in the world that is hiring chefs." Bob's new boss is a guy with a pointed face and monkey cheeks who looks very mean. He ignored Bob's anger at all. He just said sarcastically, "Just a mutant. I don't like you, get out of here. I don't believe that anyone is willing to accept mutant employees." Then he cursed in his heart, "You damn bastards." The reason why the shop owner didn't dare to yell at him was that Bob was much stronger than him. Bob was a 1.9 meter tall and 92 kilograms strong man. If they fought, he would definitely suffer. Go to hell. I will leave this damn place and go to Tuvalu. There's a country of mutants there, and I'm tired of you. Submarine Bob didn't fight with the new boss in the end. Because he was also afraid of getting into trouble, even though he was tall and strong, liked to drive a Harley motorcycle, had tattoos on his arms, had a big beard and shaved his head, and liked to wear leather clothes. He looked like a real motorcycle gang member. But Bob was actually a very kind chef. He went back to the stray cat gathering area near his home every week to feed the cats. But now he probably can't feed them, because there is no job and no income. The mortgage property tax must be paid every month, and there are other bills. Bob had to sell his beloved Harley Street Glider. He had decided that he would go to Tuvalu. He wanted to immigrate and leave the United States. Before leaving, he said goodbye to his other two friends, William, who drove a taxi, and Glue, who worked as a bartender. "If Tuvalu is as good as they claim, I will stay there and may not come back. I have had enough of this country full of discrimination." Bob said so. Bob can leave very simply because he is alone. He can leave by listing his house for sale in an agency and simply handling some follow-up matters. But William and Glue can't. William has a family and children, and Glue has a girlfriend in New York. They can't leave as freely as Bob. There are no direct flights from the United States to Tuvalu now. Bob needs to fly from the United States to Australia or New Zealand first. Then transfer to plane or ship from there. However, because of the coincidence of time, Bob took a ship from New Zealand to Tuvalu. Compared with a flight every 3 days, there is now a ferry from Tuvalu to New Zealand every day. It is obviously more appropriate to take a ship, and Tuvalu is not far from New Zealand. New Zealand still has mixed feelings about the sudden emergence of such a neighbor. A little scared, a little curious. Because Tuvalu's new policy allows outsiders to visit Tuvalu. This opening is open to everyone, but there are not many ports that can allow entry now. New Zealand has a temporary consulate opened by Tuvalu. The New Zealand government did not reject Tuvalu's request. Because from a legal point of view, New Zealand and Tuvalu are countries with established diplomatic relations. Now they are breaking off diplomatic relations? Well, what do you mean by breaking off diplomatic relations? What excuse do you use? Or do you want to make a prelude to war? As mentioned before, the time when Tuvalu's mutant nation was announced was very good, and the whole world was very busy. No one paid attention to the New Zealand government's little helplessness. So Tuvalu's consulate in New Zealand was opened very smoothly. Many people from all over the world who want to explore the first mutant country have come to New Zealand. They want to get a visa to Tuvalu. This has stimulated New Zealand's tourism industry from another aspect. The New Zealand government and people don't know whether this is good or bad. The number of visas opened by Tuvalu is limited. The first is security considerations. After all, it is a new country established by mutants. Who knows if there are fanatical anti-mutant elements who want to do something. The second is that Tuvalu is still very small. Although it has begun large-scale land reclamation, as mentioned above, Tuvalu has the approval of the United Nations to allow it to reclaim land. It takes time. If tourists come to the current island of Tuvalu, they can visit the entire island in just a few hours. Therefore, the number of visas provided by Tuvalu every day is still very limited. Many people need to queue up to get a visa. Of course, there are not only explorers who want to explore the mutant country in Tuvalu. There are also fans from all over the world. Yes, fans. The 3 X-Men in Tuvalu have attracted fans all over the world, especially the idol-oriented X-Men New Age group, which has attracted countless fans. Many people want to come here to sign autographs and take photos with their idols. For example, there is a pair of girls in front of Bob, who look about 20 years old at most. The girls sounded like Italians. They wanted to come to Tuvalu to see their idol, the mutant queen, Miss Katie, and her 4 knights. I got it. I got it. And the staff there said that we may not be able to visit the presidential palace. And to see Miss Katie and take a photo with her. The 2 girls screamed excitedly, which made Bob feel a little overwhelmed. Until he went to the examiner's office of the consulate. He saw a tall and thin man sitting there and asked him seriously, "Are you going to Tuvalu for sightseeing or something else?" Bob said bluntly, "I am a mutant, an American citizen. If you know about discrimination against mutants, you should understand why I am here. I came here to join Tuvalu." Hearing Bob's words, the tall and thin man's originally serious face seemed to relax a little, but Bob was not sure if he was dazzled. "Want to join Tuvalu? Then you need to go to the Immigration Inspection Office in Tuvalu for review. I will give you a permit and a letter of explanation," the tall and thin man said straightforwardly. After Bob left with his entry permit and letter of explanation, the tall and thin man turned on his communicator. He called the presidential palace of Tuvalu. "Another mutant wants to join Tuvalu." Katie nodded at the other end of the presidential palace. "I see, I'll send the letter of explanation together. We'll be ready here. The first batch of medicine has arrived. But keep the number of people under control." After finishing the call with her immigration officer, Katie couldn't help but look to her left. 200 aloe medicine bottles were lying there quietly. This was the idea that Nightwalker came up with at the time, the first batch of products of the X-Beauty project. The scale is small now, and the output is small. But it can already be used on a small scale. Maybe there will be some in need among the new mutants who joined. Katie smiled and shook her head. She looked out the window, and the wind started to blow on the sea. Chapter 857 Red Pill and Blue Pill. Bob boarded the ferry to Tuvalu with about 200 people. Among them were ordinary travelers and journalists who were going to explore Tuvalu. At the same time, there were ordinary mutants like Bob who wanted to join Tuvalu. Bob saw at least 5 such people. Because their physical changes were too obvious, for example, one person had a breathing organ like fish gills on his neck. He was probably an amphibious person who could breathe on land and in water. However, having fish gills on a person's neck must have affected his daily life. Even if the fish gill man wore a high-necked shirt, he couldn't completely cover his fish gills. There must be many people who regarded him as an alien. Bob sighed in his heart, because he couldn't see any expression related to happiness and joy on the face of the fish gill man. He always frowned and looked gloomy. This was not surprising at all. Bob guessed that the man who looked like a fish was probably not very popular in his life. He just had ears that could breathe, and he looked no different from ordinary people from the outside. Even so, there were still people yelling at him. Bob felt a little sympathetic towards the gill man, but he didn't plan to approach him to talk. Because seeing the other party's bitter and vengeful look, if he approached him to talk to him, he might cause him to be disgusted. There were several other more obvious mutants. One guy had strange ears. Just like a wolf's ears, but I don't know if he has the hearing of a wolf. Another guy's arms were abnormally thick, much thicker than his body, and looked like 2 giant bear arms installed on an ordinary person's body. Maybe this guy has the strength of a bear? Another guy's eyes were very sharp, and the shape of his pupils was like that of an eagle. Maybe this guy has eagle eyes? The last guy walked strangely on 2 legs. Bob accidentally observed that he seemed to have a pair of recurved legs. Just like some cats, long and powerful. Bob would not be surprised if he ran as fast as his former Harley motorcycle. After all, there are all kinds of people among mutants. Maybe this person has the speed of a leopard. Well, the ears of a wolf, the strength of a bear, the eyes of an eagle, and the speed of a leopard. I wonder if these 4 people can combine to become Sheriff Breast. Note: oh, if the ability of the gill man is also taken into account, maybe Sheriff Breast can have an extra fish breath. Bob was thinking about these things in a mess, and he was a little uneasy about his future. Is Tuvalu a home where mutants can settle down? He has already looked at the edge of the island in the distance, and Tuvalu is getting closer and closer. The gill man and the other 5 also walked to the side of the ship. They looked at Tuvalu, which was already in front of them, and everyone's breathing was a little heavy. Why do you want to join Tuvalu? The handsome man greeted Bob and his group. He looked sunny and smiling. If it weren't for the pair of angel wings on his back reminding him that he was also a mutant, Bob would have thought he had met a well-educated rich boy. Bob knew this man. He had seen him on TV. The angel Warren Worthington, who is called one of the 4 Knights of the Queen by the media. The Gill Man looked at the angel Warren with some envy and even a little extreme. The other party is also a disabled mutant. According to the classification of mutant evolution, the angel Warren has not yet reached a gamma level, that is, he has powerful abilities but also has huge defects. The representative of this kind of people is the little rascal. Warren has wings to fly, and has some abilities to accelerate injury recovery and some additional small abilities, but he is still far from having powerful abilities. If you want to be serious, Warren is actually between the failed evolutionary epsilon level, with weak abilities, but huge defects that affect life, and the gamma level. Maybe the Gill Man can't fly, but his mutant ability allows him to stay in the water for a month. He can live perfectly underwater, just like a fish. But the treatment of a fish and an angel is very different. The Gill Man is already 25 years old, but he doesn't even have a girlfriend so far. Everyone dislikes the gills on his neck. Angel Warren only posted 2 selfies on Weibo and a lot of female fans left comments below, saying that they wanted to have a baby angel with Angel. Countless people think that Angel's big wings are so cool. Diving is obviously a very cool ability, okay. Why can't it be compared with a pair of beautiful wings? Exclamation mark. They're all mutants. Why is the difference in treatment so big? Fish Gill Man is desperate for this world that values appearance. They're all epsilon class, but the side effects of Fish Gill Man and the other 5 people's failed evolution are much worse than growing a pair of big wings. No one thinks they are cool. So for Warren's question, Fish Gill Man was a little uncomfortable. It is obvious that the 5 of us are not well liked. Others point at my nose and call me Catfish Monster. And I think the situation of the 4 of them is similar. We just want to find a place with less discrimination to live and find a suitable job. My ability is diving. Without equipment, I can dive up to 120 meters underwater. If I go deeper, the water pressure will crush me. Fish Gill Man briefly talked about his ability, which is actually amazing. For ordinary people, diving to 20 meters without any equipment is already the limit. Following the Gill Man, the 4 people including Eagle Eyes, Wolf Ears, Leopard Speed, and Bear Strength also introduced their abilities. Their reasons are the same as the Gill Man. Although they have mutant abilities, their physical mutations make them unwelcome among ordinary people. So they want to find a safe haven. When it was Bob's turn, he suddenly couldn't speak. Can I breathe with my ears? Well, compared with the previous 5 people, Bob felt that he was a fake mutant. For the 5 people including the Gill Man, ordinary places could not accommodate them, so they chose to come to Tuvalu. Angel Warren nodded, I understand. But here I want to provide you with a small choice. Have you seen The Matrix? As the pinnacle of R-rated movies, The Matrix trilogy enjoys a high reputation all over the world. Few people don't know this movie. Looking at the people in front of him, they all nodded to indicate that they knew this movie. Angel Warren continued, now you have 2 choices. Just like the choice before Neo, the male protagonist of The Matrix. Red pill or blue pill? You also have a chance to choose this way. We have made a batch of drugs that can alleviate the defects caused by removing the X gene. But the side effect is that it will also eliminate the X ability to 0. You will still have potential X genes, but they will be in a state to be activated. So according to the existing inspection standards, you will no longer be mutants. Angel Warren threw out a huge temptation, choose one of the 2, become a normal person and return to normal life, or do you want to continue to join Tuvalu? Bob looked at Warren in surprise, and the breathing of the 5 people including the Gill Man became heavier. P.S. Note, Sheriff Bresta is an American cartoon released in 1987. The protagonist of the animation, Sheriff Bresta, has the strength of a bear, the eyes of an eagle, the speed of a leopard, and the ears of a wolf. This was the favorite cartoon of Submarine Bob when he was a child. He thought it was cool. It's much better than the crazy SpongeBob SquarePants, the weird My Little Pony and the Powerpuff Girls that are shown to children now. The above description is from Submarine Bob. Chapter 858, going further and further on the road to becoming the king of cosmetics. Let people choose to become a member of Tuvalu or become an ordinary person to live a normal life. This doesn't sound like something a country established by mutants would do. But this actually happened. Because this was discussed internally by the Illuminati. The purpose of this medicine is to better serve the general public and use it where everyone needs it, rather than secretly persuading or forcing ordinary people to take it. Like someone selling fake medicine. Li Ji put forward his own views and opinions at the meeting. Becoming a mutant, or becoming an ordinary person, seems to be a choice that will harm the interests of Tuvalu, but it is not the case. Our ultimate hope is to eliminate the boundary between mutants and ordinary people. The X-Rebirth Project, formerly the X-Beautiful Project, Li Ji changed it after other Illuminati bosses repeatedly complained about the name, is actually more significant. Some mutants have huge defects, but they don't want to leave their original place of life, where there may be things they can't let go. So let their X genes become activated, remove their side effects and detect no X genes from the current test. Let them go back to their original lives. Then their favorability towards Tuvalu will be much higher than letting them join Tuvalu. I guess many people join Tuvalu semi-forced. They can't accept the discrimination outside and choose to join. This may not be a good thing. Li Ji's statement was agreed by everyone. Because the ultimate goal is to eliminate discrimination, not to make Tuvalu the world's #1 power. Different goals, so the way of dealing with things is also different. Dr. Hank created a new drug through the genes of the Little Rascal and the Parker particles. It can eliminate the mutation damage caused by the X gene, and at the same time eliminate the original X ability. This reminded Li Ji of the third part of the old version of X-Men. The ending seems to be that the government has developed a leech virus or something, and then let all mutants inject it or something, so as to eliminate mutants. Li Ji did not comment on this practice, but what they are doing now seems to be a bit like what the government did at the beginning. But it is different. Because in the movie, the government did this to completely eliminate mutants. The purpose of Li Ji and others doing this is to pave the way for the X New Life Plan, X Beauty Plan. This is an epoch-making drug invention, and it should not be treated as a fake drug and done secretly. Li Ji meant something. We must first open a gap with the original mutants, let them know the benefits of this drug, and then promote it. This matter needs to be done underground, but more drugs are done openly. Only by being upright can we refute the conspiracy theories that may appear. Li Ji said these words seriously, but he did not think that he might be the biggest conspirator in the world. The bigwigs of the Illuminati knew it tacitly, but they just didn't say it. If you want to take it, you must first give it. This is an irrefutable truth. The X-Rebirth Plan's potions have started to be produced on a small scale. The new potions are the simplest origin potions without any other abilities. This is the potion that Li Ji gave to the Black Belly King last time. Now Dr. Hank has developed several different X-Rebirth potions, such as the colorful package, for changing hair color. With it, you can have a colorful hair at the party, which will definitely attract attention. At the same time, you don't have to worry about dyeing your hair. You can return to normal after the party. You don't have to worry about being beaten by your parents for dyeing your hair. There is also the Easy Fat Reduction Package. Are you still worried about exercising to lose weight? Looking at your 30% body fat rate in the swimming ring around your waist, you are worried? Want to exercise to lose weight but can't control your mouth? Eat more than exercise? Come to the Easy Fat Reduction Package. This package can help you easily excrete fat. And when you eat food, it automatically controls the intake of fat and sugar, without affecting the intake of other proteins and carbohydrates. Let you eat fried chicken and French fries while easily reducing the fat content in your body. Then there is the Height Growth Package, which is divided into 3 packages. 3 centimeters, 5 centimeters, and 10 centimeters. The corresponding length is how much taller you can grow. Do you feel inferior and can't even breathe well? It doesn't matter. A height growth package will make you a big shot on the basketball court. There are also many packages with strange abilities. But they all follow one point, that is, they are very practical. It is not the so-called practicality that everyone becomes a Superman with one shot in general online novels. It is the ability to truly change people's lives and make their lives more convenient. This category is divided into Life Practicality X New Life Series. In addition, there is also a Life Entertainment X New Life Series, Potion. Entertainment potions have various entertainment purposes. For example, the Underwater Breathing Package is suitable for diving, and the Outdoor Adventure Package is suitable for outdoor adventures, including appropriate enhancement of hearing and smell, and higher skin heat preservation. And this type of entertainment package is not going to be withdrawn for the time being. Only after people have accepted the practical packages on a large scale, the entertainment packages will be launched. And all of this, as Lee Ji said before, needs to be spread out. It cannot be done in secret like a certain fake medicine king. You know, the legendary blacksmith fake medicine one is selling those chemical raw materials at a loss in order to make those fake medicines. The bigwigs of the Illuminati are not prepared to do such stupid things. They are still counting on making money with this. Do you think the funds to support such a huge organization as the Illuminati are a small amount? This is not a story in DG Comics. Helium Dragon casually flies to an alien planet to pick up a diamond weighing hundreds of kilograms and sells it back to Earth, and then the Supreme Alliance formed by Helium Dragon and Night Owl can get a lot of money. Please, if this is done, can diamond merchants all over the world stand on the side of Bald Luther and form an anti-Helium Dragon alliance to kill him? Money does not simply refer to precious metals or those colorful pieces of paper. The essence of money is actually the circulation of goods. Money itself has no value. The value of money lies in the massive amount of materials that can be mobilized behind it. It is a medium that replaces barter. As long as the Illuminati does not want to cause an economic crisis on the entire Earth, the means of making money will still need to follow the laws of the Earth. So at Lee Ji's suggestion, Tony Stark's private Shugwang technology company has made a new big move. In order to pave the way for the future X Rebirth plan, Shugwang Technology Company began to build its own flagship stores in 20 important cities around the world at the same time. But here not only sells Shugwang Technology products, but also prepares for the future X Rebirth plan. So these flagship stores also have another name, Shugwang Technology Beauty Therapy Center. Tony Stark doesn't know whether he's lucky or unfortunate. Since joining the Illuminati, his value has begun to soar, much better than when he was selling arms. But at the same time, he is also going further and further on the road of becoming the king of drugstore cosmetics. Now Tony Stark is just praying that after several years, the world will still remember that there was an Iron Man Tony Stark. And not just remember that it was the king of drugstore cosmetics bald nemesis beauty emperor Tony Stark. Asking for votes on the last day of the month. Please give me your monthly tickets and recommendation tickets. Chapter 859 Finding Someone to Pay the Bill. Tuvalu, a country founded by mutants, has developed its own drug to eliminate mutant genes. James, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, looked at the news in disbelief and was a little dazed. Since the last time he colluded with an unscrupulous lawyer to frame Spider-Man and create a topic for his campaign for the mayor of New York, the old guy has been much quieter. Because he was scolded by a group of people on the internet. Of course, he can't count on the election for the mayor of New York City, because after Lee Ji's short film I Am for Everyone, Everyone for Me, and he and Frank had a good chat with the unscrupulous lawyer named Lucas in private, the other party had to tell all kinds of things. This made James and the Daily Bugle's reputation fall to the bottom. The Daily Bugle was almost bankrupt. However, James has gone through so many ups and downs for so many years, and he still has some skills. After experiencing a series of events such as various compromises and public apologies to Spider-Man, the Daily Bugle still survived. But now the Daily Bugle has restrained a lot. James suffered a huge blow after his failure in the mayoral campaign. Especially when more vigilante organizations began to appear in New York City, he didn't want to offend anyone. After all, he was old, and now that he had no chance to be the mayor of New York, he wanted to quietly finish his last few years as an editor-in-chief and then retire. So it was incredible that the Daily Bugle, which had always used superheroes to stir up topics, suddenly became more fair and objective. Well, maybe it was a bit exaggerated to say it was fair and objective, but at least James would not let his editors casually blacken superheroes like Spider-Man. However, after the last incident, the sales of the Daily Bugle began to decline. They needed to find some new and explosive news to increase their sales. And there have been a lot of big news in the news industry recently. Whether it was the Ark spacecraft that was about to return, the destruction of Hydra before, or the establishment of the Tuvalu mutant country. These news were all worth following up. And now there was new news about Tuvalu, which James had been following. But the news sent back made James a little unconvinced. The mutant country has created its own drug to eliminate mutants. Are they destroying their own Great Wall? James felt that if this news was true, then the female president of Tuvalu must be out of her mind. News media always have their own sources of information, and sometimes the accuracy of their sources of information is no worse than that of the FBI or CIA. Does this news need to be reported in the news? James's editor asked his boss with a weird temper cautiously. After James confirmed the authenticity of the news again and again, he made a decision. If this news is true, then it is indeed a big news. It deserves to be on the front page. Then do we need to control the direction of public opinion for this news? The editor asked. Because the media is a mouthpiece, they can add some inductive words and tones to the news, which can often change the original nature of a news. The reversal of black and white is not just a casual talk, but it really exists. No, James said without even thinking, this matter only needs to be reported truthfully, and we don't need to exaggerate. The current policy towards Tuvalu is still unclear, and we should not make any statement before the political trend is established. Don't forget, this is the presidential election year. James knocked on the table and said the key point. There is an unspoken rule for media all over the world, that is, news must conform to the political correctness of the country. Otherwise, you can wait to be caught by the pigtail and killed. It's just that each country has different standards for political correctness. Some things are allowed in country A, but not in country B. Sometimes it's the other way around. This year is an election year, and the president elected will most likely lead the United States for the next decade. James originally wanted to run for mayor of New York, but because he failed, his relationship with those political bigwigs became a little alienated. James knew that some of the bigwigs who supported him at the time hated mutants. But when he was in the most difficult time, these bigwigs didn't help him, so he didn't need to be anyone's vanguard now. Start a public opinion war and then stand in line? Come on, James is not in the mood for this now. So the influential newspaper group on the East Coast of the United States published a shocking news on the front page of the second day: saving mutants or destroying the Great Wall? Tuvalu's choice. The news detailed Tuvalu's new decision. Some mutants have fled to Tuvalu, and the Tuvaluan officials who are responsible for receiving these mutants actually let these mutants make a choice. Continue to live as mutants in Tuvalu, or use the potion to become an ordinary person and return to normal life. This is the news brought back by some mutants who returned from Tuvalu, mutants who chose to return to normal life. Tuvalu has developed this potion, which allows mutants to have a choice. Tuvalu naturally welcomes those who are still willing to be mutants and are committed to contributing to the construction of Tuvalu. And those who want to return from mutants to normal people can naturally do so. The news from the Daily Bugle came from a former mutant. His previous mutant ability was to have a pair of gills that can breathe underwater. This made his life very miserable. He originally planned to seek refuge in Tuvalu. But when he learned that he could choose a different life, he chose to return to normal life without hesitation. And he exchanged this news for news fees, paid by the Daily Bugle. In fact, this is the effect that the bigwigs of the Illuminati want. Someone leaks it out instead of publicizing it yourself. Pretending to let others discover a secret will spread faster and more credibly than you telling others something solemnly. Rumors always spread faster than the truth and sound more convincing. For example, there is a rumor in a certain Asian country that the super high-speed railway has radiation and radiates all of Asia, and it is said that this is officially recognized. Because the official title is Super High-Speed Railway Will Radiate Eurasia. Maybe this is a free point question? In the farm of Bruce Banner and Betty Ross in Arizona, Dr. Banner asked Lee G in confusion, "What is the purpose of doing this? Why don't we directly release this medicine publicly? Even if it is a follow-up product that does not use the X-reborn drug, it can only help people who are currently troubled by the side effects of mutant genes. I think we should manufacture and distribute this drug on a large scale, rather than just providing it to the mutants who go to Tuvalu and let them make a choice. Although those mutants who get the drug and relieve their pain will be grateful to Tuvalu, more people may lose this opportunity." Dr. Banner is very good at research and has a high IQ. But he is not a person who is good at conspiracy. If Captain Rogers, who is already familiar with Lee G, is here, he probably won't ask Lee G why he uses this method. Because with Captain Rogers' political mind and understanding of Lee G, although he can't guess what Lee G is thinking 100%, he can guess it almost. In response to Dr. Banner's question, Lee G smiled and said, "The reason is very simple. The Illuminati does not have that much money." Lee G said it very realistically. Although Shuguang Technology is a money-grabbing company, the Illuminati's expenses are too high. It is simply a bottomless pit. In order to ensure the healthy operation of Shuguang Technology has a large amount of money that cannot be touched, otherwise it would be killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. The main source of funds for the Illuminati comes from the profit dividend that Tony can use in Shuguang technology. This part is limited, and most of it has been invested in the construction of the Venus base. The X-Rookie project is a very large project. Dr. Hank only produced 200 medicines in the first batch because this medicine is too expensive. This expensiveness is mainly reflected in the inability to mass produce, because according to Dr. Hank's estimate, in order to ensure mass production, a high-precision production line is required. The cost of this production line is as high as hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is only the first phase of the project. If the entire product line is to be scaled up, especially the scale of the entire X-Rookie project envisioned by Li Ji, then the investment will be an astronomical figure. Of course, once this drug is on the market, the profits it can earn are astronomical. But the initial investment is too huge. And for the sake of confidentiality and security, it cannot be financed on a large scale from banks. Tony is very rich, but every penny has a place to go. Especially after Pepper became his wife and took charge of the finances. So we need to get a lot of money to do this. It would be best if it were a low-interest or even interest-free loan. And we have to ensure that this drug will not be resisted when it is finally released. It can be successfully inspected by the drug regulatory authorities of various countries. And we need to be prepared to deal with all this at this time. Dr. Banner couldn't keep up with Li Ji's train of thought. He asked in confusion, "What does all this have to do with what you want to do?" Li Ji shrugged, "Let's do the early layout. First of all, it's the public opinion offensive, not for us to say. It should be others who force us to say it. Some things are not necessarily good if we take the initiative. It's better to let others choose some hot potatoes. Don't many NATO countries, including the United States, have radical elements clamoring to completely eliminate mutants? Now that the opportunity has come, shouldn't they contribute money and effort? For example, provide some funds, and then vigorously promote our medicine, or even promote this medicine to the sequence of basic vaccine injections? Name it a gene defect syndrome vaccine, and then the country will pay for all mutants to be injected? Of course, in order to achieve this step, we still have to do a lot of things, but we need to lay the first step first. Li Ji said these things with a smile. But Dr. Banner felt that many people behind this smile were going to be unlucky. Is this the legendary borrowing power to fight power? Borrowing chickens to lay eggs? Being sold and still helping others count money? Li Ji ignored Dr. Banner's stunned expression. He just passed by to see Dr. Banner. Dr. Banner was one of the Illuminati's expansion plans, and the second one was Dr. Doom, and Li Ji still needed to meet and talk to him. Chapter 860, Doom. Dr. Doom, or Doom Master Doom. This is a very smart and daring guy. He is very thick-skinned and extremely narcissistic. You can tell from the way he named the country he controlled. The place names of various places always like to have Doom as a foreword. He left a deep mark on Latveria. But even such a narcissistic person has his own persistence, humility and pride. Doom named all kinds of scenic spots in the country, as if those landscapes formed over millions of years were created by him, such as Dumlin, Dum Valley. But he gave the university that he really created a different name, Latverian University of Sciences. Science is science, and it does not belong to anyone in essence. We just occasionally find some directions and laws of water flow in the vast ocean, which is not worth mentioning compared to the entire vast ocean. Stay humble in front of science, never think that you already know all the knowledge in this world, and always be a student and always on the road. Only in this way can you benefit endlessly on the road of science. From the School Declaration of the Latvian University of Science, this paragraph was written by Dum. Because of Dum's awe of science, his extraordinary desire to explore, and his own outstanding scientist. Although the Latvian University of Science was founded only 20 years ago, it is already a first-class school. Although Latvia is not included in the international university rankings, because of political relations, the last time Li Ji and Dr. Banner visited Latvia, Dr. Banner visited the University of Science. He expressed high praise for the university's hardware and software level. It is not inferior to New York University or the University of California, Berkeley. Before Dum came to power, Latvia was a poor and weak country with no science and technology industry. The country basically relied on agriculture. Science and technology culture are extremely underdeveloped. After Dum came to power, although he ruled the country in a dictatorial way, Dr. Banner, it is actually a bit brutal. But the national strength has improved. At the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union, The per capita annual disposable income in Latvia increased from $300 to more than $38,000 today, almost 20 years after DUM came to power. The living income of residents has increased by more than 100 times. The annual per capita intake of meat, dairy products, and other materials has also increased from 3.75 kilograms and 13 kilograms per year during the collapse of the Soviet Union to 115 kilograms of meat products and 215 kilograms of dairy products per year. Latvians have the habit of eating cheese, and the conversion ratio of cheese to raw milk is very high. The per capita electricity generation in Latvia has also soared from more than 700 degrees per year 20 years ago to 12,000 degrees per year. Latvia under DUM's rule is indeed not free. He uses his secret police agency to control the public opinion of the whole country and makes all those who dare to oppose him disappear. He is a real dictator. But what if we look at the problem from another angle? After the collapse of the Soviet Union, countries including Russia are no longer developed countries. Everyone's quality of life is getting worse and worse. Eastern European countries are even worse off, with coups and civil wars constantly happening, and life for ordinary people is really hard. Although Latvia is a dictatorship, its living standards are rising every year. According to the standards, Latvia is completely an advanced developed country. The per capita consumption of daily necessities such as meat, milk, and electricity is among the highest in the world. Although it is a small country, it lives a comfortable life. However, almost all Western media will deliberately ignore this point when evaluating Latvia. They will not list these figures to compare Latvia 20 years ago with Latvia now. They will not care whether Latvian residents like the days when they go home from get off work every day and open the refrigerator, which is full of cheese, sausages and butter. Or they prefer the days when they have no food for the next meal every day and don't know where to find the next piece of black bread. Of course, for the media that is politically commanding, all this is not important. After all, political correctness is the most important. Ligi's previous impression of Latvia also mostly came from the propaganda of these media. The propaganda portrayed DUM as a war criminal who is a dictator and a militarist. He was a supervillain who forced and exploited his own people. It was not until the start of the superhighway project that Ligi and Dr. Banner went to Latvia in person and talked to DUM calmly for the first time. Ligi felt that the media's words could not be fully trusted. DUM did go too far in some aspects and was indeed very dictatorial. But in other aspects he was good and correct. At least, if DUM had not come to power in Latvia 20 years ago, but a democratic leader that the Western media liked came to power, Ligi guessed that the average living standard of the Latvian people would probably not be as good as the current level under DUM's rule. Maybe there would be civil strife? And now DUM has begun to be a little obsessed with magic. As the monarch of Latvia, DUM now wants to become the supreme sorcerer. He has begun to want to slowly delegate power to Latvia. The more Ligi knows about DUM, the more he feels that this person is actually credible. He is not a villain in the traditional sense. Or in other words, DUM and Ligi have a lot in common. They are both people who can do whatever it takes to achieve a certain goal. It's just that DUM is much more extreme and stubborn than Ligi. Is DUM bad? Maybe. His badness is not the kind of badness in the traditional sense. It's that his different standards of behavior have caused a deviation in value cognition. So it was Ligi's idea for Radom to join the Illuminati. But at the same time, this idea also requires some risks. After all, DUM is not a particularly easy person to get along with. Others in the Illuminati said that it would be no problem for Dr. Banner to join directly. But Dr. DUM needs a probation period, just like an intern. And DUM, who is practicing magic in enigmatic, is sitting on his own chair. And Ligi is sitting opposite him, and he said with a serious face, "Do you want to join a secret underground organization and then launch a secret plan to control the world?" Chapter 861 Trainee. What? DUM felt like there was something wrong with his ears. Was it because his eardrums were damaged when he was practicing explosion spells yesterday? The guy standing in front of him was Nightwalker, right? Wasn't he a superhero? When Eastern Europe was in turmoil, this guy brought a group of people to stop him in order to quell the war. At that time, he thought that this guy was a guy with an excessive sense of justice. And what is he talking about now when he is sitting in front of him? Join a secret organization and secretly control the world? Did someone break your brain? Or are you actually a fake Nightwalker? DUM had reason to raise such doubts. He was even ready to summon Master Ancient One, saying that Nightwalker was controlled by someone or something. Doom still knew that Master Ancient One valued Li Ji very much. Maybe Li Ji was Kamartaki's son-in-law. After all, it was rumored that the relationship between Ancient One's adopted daughter and Nightwalker was extraordinary. If he went to report the news himself, maybe he could get some favorability? Doom has already made up his mind to be the next Sorcerer Supreme, and he now has a competitor, that is Doctor Strange in Nightcrawler's house. With Doom's personality, any possible danger must be suppressed to the minimum. Anything that can improve favorability must be done to the best of one's ability. Doom's non-cooperation was a little beyond Li Ji's expectations. He said in surprise, "Don't you like this statement? I thought that as a villain, this statement can make you excited." Damn it. How stupid would someone be to be excited about this statement? And when did I become a villain? Everything I have done in this world is clear in my conscience. Even if it is a war, I think what I did is reasonable. Not to mention that I have never launched a foreign war. The war in Eastern Europe was started by the 5 permanent members. Doom looked at Li Ji and said in a surprised tone. Li Ji was not sure whether Doom's surprise came from his real thoughts or he was pretending to do so. Okay. I thought you would like this. Then we can secretly control the world and become the mastermind behind the whole world. I thought you would be excited and beg me to let you join this mysterious organization. Lord Doom sneered at Li Ji's words. He snorted with disdain. Dream on. I will never beg anyone. And I don't care about the crap you care about. Really? You don't care about Strange competing with you for the position of Supreme Sorcerer? Li Ji asked. Doom. Huh? I can't lose to this kind of stuff, although I admit that he does have some courage. Doom vaguely remembered Strange's demeanor as a general who remained calm even when facing a mountain collapse, tough and stubborn. Doom still admired Strange for this. Especially after spending some time with Strange and learning magic together, Strange's progress was still very fast. So although Doom didn't want to admit it, Strange was indeed talented and courageous. Strange, actually, it's not what you think. Li Ji followed Doom's words and said, yes. He is not as good as you, at least you should not be troubled by the hair loss. Hair loss? Doom was a little confused. Didn't you drink that energy water? Sow injection milk? Li Ji looked at Doom in surprise. It is a potion that can enhance the magic activity of the mage and increase the agility of thinking. This thing is good in everything, and the only side effect is hair loss. Strange has been drinking this thing, but in order to save his hair, he has used all his savings to stock up on Dawn 101 hair growth water. He uses a bottle almost every 3 days, and only this frequency can save his hair. I guess you probably don't need to use this seemingly cheating method, right? Although I heard from Lan that most male mages in Kamartaki need to drink this drink. Li Ji said seemingly without any intention. The skin of Doom's steel mask twitched, and then he figured out something in his heart. No wonder so many male wizards he saw in Kamartaki were bald, even the king was bald. I thought it was more convenient to practice magic with a bald head, but the answer is here. The secret that has troubled Doom for a long time was finally revealed by Li Ji. But what makes people depressed is that no one has given him such a good thing. Maybe it's because Doom doesn't like to communicate with others and is relatively aloof. Maybe communicating with others is also a part of the assessment to become the Supreme Sorcerer. Although Strange is not as good as himself, Doom thinks so himself, he is better at communicating with others. After all, he is a former world-famous doctor, and he is still good at treating people. Actually, I think you are more suitable to be the Sorcerer Supreme than Strange, really. Li Ji said sincerely, at least on the surface, you look more majestic, and at least you don't worry about losing your hair every day. Look, is there any wizard in Kamartaki who would be troubled by hair loss? I guess a wizard who can't become bald can't achieve the position of Supreme. But at the same time, I also think you need some little help. Li Ji's words almost made Doom laugh. Doom asked with a cold face, what kind of help? Image problem. Li Ji pointed at Doom's iron mask. Excuse me, I know something about you. Dr. Reed on the Moon was your classmate in college. He once told me about you. In a chemistry experiment class in college, your face was burned and your appearance was ruined due to an accident. Doom's tone became colder. So what? Li Ji sighed. I just feel it's a pity. It's not that I can't do anything for you, although there is an old saying that, who stipulates that heroes must be handsome. But handsome heroes are always more attractive. If you become the Supreme Sorcerer, are you still going to wear the Iron Mask? That is a position to deal with multiverse demons. Do you want those demons to laugh at you for being a coward? To be honest, I checked your old photos in college. You are actually very handsome, Doom. Doom felt that he could no longer suppress his anger. How I look is my business. It has nothing to do with you. Don't get excited, don't get excited. Look, I'm here to discuss cooperation with you. Didn't we just talk about whether you want to try to join our secret organization and become the world's Black Hand or something? Although you can't become our official member all at once, we still have benefits even if you are an intern member. Leiji persuaded step by step. For example, a newly developed potion may be able to restore your original appearance. You can wear the iron mask when you want, and throw it away when you don't want to. Isn't it good to be a handsome guy again? Doom felt that he had never been a person who cared about his appearance. He had been disfigured for so many years, and he had never cared about it. But today, as if by some strange coincidence, he said for the first time, "What's the price?" Nightwalker smiled and said, "Become an intern member of our organization, and do me a small favor. We need to promote a small potion that is beneficial to health to the world." Chapter 862 We have no money. Tuvalu is crazy. The mutant leader of Tuvalu is indeed crazy. Now all the public opinions in the international community think so. The female president of Tuvalu is destroying the Great Wall. The founding of Tuvalu shocked the world. Especially the national muscle shown when the Hydra was wiped out made any forces that wanted to move Tuvalu weigh it. The forces that have the ability to move Tuvalu do not want to fight with this country to the death, because the benefits are much greater than the cost, and it is not cost effective. And most of those who want to fight with Tuvalu to the end do not have the strength. So the problem of Tuvalu has become a very thorny problem in the international community for a while. Especially the destructive power shown by those mutants made many people feel uncomfortable and thought that Tuvalu would be a big cancer. I want to solve this problem of this country, but many people don't know what to do. And now, Tuvalu has begun to destroy the Great Wall? Exclamation mark. Ever since the mutants such as the Gill Man took the original agent of the X-Rebirth potion and returned to the United States and spread the news, now almost the whole world knows about Tuvalu's new policy. They actually developed a drug that can eliminate the X gene. Actually, it makes the X gene in an activated state, but most people don't understand the mystery. It eliminated the X gene and the side effects of the X gene. For example, the gills on the fish gill man's neck finally disappeared. After more than 20 years, he finally dared to wear a turtleneck. Instead of wearing a turtleneck in the summer and covering himself with prickly heat. Is this a good thing? Of course it is a good thing for most people. After the initial report by the Daily Bugle, this news began to brew around the world. The speed of news dissemination in the modern world is quite amazing. What happened in New York, the United States, just 1 hour ago, the citizens of London, the United Kingdom, will know it in the next hour. And this new drug developed by Tuvalu is of great significance to the whole world. So for a while, not only the global media began to take action, but also the intelligence agencies of governments of various countries. Check. Go and check it for me. I want to know if this is true. The big boss of the FBI is also verifying the authenticity of this matter, because the White House needs a detailed report. Not only the United States, but other countries have also taken action. And the results came out soon, because it was not just a fish gill man. Many mutants who went to Tuvalu to seek refuge made a choice in front of Angel Warren. That is to eliminate the X gene and side effects, and then return to where they originally lived and continue their normal life and work. The man named Angel Warren gave us two choices. One is to keep the identity and ability of mutants and go to Tuvalu to work and live. The other is to drink the potion and become an ordinary person. It's like the movie The Matrix, where Lawrence asked Keanu Reeves whether to take the red pill or the blue pill. The Gill Man was outspoken in the face of the investigation. He told everything he had experienced in detail. Anyway, Tuvalu did not emphasize that they should keep these things secret. Although the Gill Man was very grateful to Tuvalu for restoring him to a normal person, he might be willing to help Tuvalu in some things, but this certainly did not include being stubborn when facing FBI investigators. More details were revealed one by one as the investigation deepened, and now the whole world began to know. Tuvalu gave the mutants who went to Tuvalu two choices, especially they made this thing called the newborn potion. In New Zealand, countless reporters flocked to it. They all want to collect more materials from here as soon as possible, because they may not be able to go to Tuvalu. On the other hand, other political bodies, including the US Congress, Our arguing internally. Is this female president named Katie crazy? I don't see why Tuvalu would do this. A White House bigwig questioned in an internal meeting, what good will this do for Tuvalu? Maybe it's a conspiracy? Maybe this potion is a cover. A conspiracy theory bigwig responded like this, maybe those mutants are plotting something terrible. The attitude of the United States towards mutants is the weather vane of the Western world, especially NATO countries, and many people's policies follow the pace of the United States. This is the posture of the world's #1 superpower. Whatever it does, there will always be a group of people who follow it closely. So the US Congress must figure out what Tuvalu is doing and think about how to deal with it. We are not only responsible to the United States, but also to our allies. This is what a congressional bigwig said. Of course, how much credibility there is in this is unknown. Submarine Bob's friend, William, a mutant with glowing fingers, who drives a taxi in New York, was also concerned about the Tuvalu incident after he opened the news. He remembered that his friend had set off some time ago, saying that he was going to Tuvalu. William wanted to find out whether the news in the news report was true, so he made a cruel overseas call to his friend Bob. Is it true? Tuvalu really has developed that newborn drug that can remove the X gene and side effects. William did not greet him at the beginning, but asked Bob questions head-on. He was a little anxious and overseas calls were very expensive. It's true, that's right. Several people who came in with me chose to return to their past lives after injecting the drug. Bob on the other end of the phone sounded excited. When William heard that the news was true, his heart suddenly moved and he had some ideas. But then he quickly noticed the message revealed in Bob's words, and William asked, "What do you mean just now? Everyone who went with you went back. Did you inject the drug? Are you still in Tuvalu? Listen. This matter is more complicated, but I assure you that these drugs are harmless. But they are far inferior to the real good things. Listen, I now think that being a mutant is much better than being an ordinary person. If Tuvalu sells the first batch of newborn drugs or something, you must not spend money to buy it. The price of this thing must be very expensive. Believe me, just wait for a while and there will be better products on the market, and I guarantee that you will think it is worth the money." Bob's words were unclear, and William asked him again and again, but he didn't give in. William hung up the phone with some doubts. After thinking for a while, he decided to listen to his old friend. The two have known each other for more than 30 years, and Bob has never heard himself. And it sounds like this drug may be sold on the market? And it is sold at a high price? William felt that he needed to run a few more taxi trips to make more money. Tuvalu. Mutant female president Katie is having a video conference. This video conference is special because she is facing a group of foreign affairs leaders from another country, and they have only one question to ask, which is about the authenticity of the new potion and its purpose. The new potion is real. It can eliminate the side effects of the X gene. It is a medicine to remove pain. But the side effect is that it will wipe out the ability of the X gene. Katie spoke frankly to these foreign affairs leaders. As for the purpose, I am a student of Professor Charles X. The professor has devoted his life to the peaceful coexistence of mutants and humans. At the same time, we also deeply understand the difficulties of the lives of epsilon-level mutants. We hope that everyone can live a better life, rather than Tuvalu relying on certain methods to fight for power. As I said in my previous speech, Tuvalu is the home of mutants and a place to shelter everyone from wind and rain, not a regime that dominates the world. Katie's expression was very sincere when she said this, because she believed this from the bottom of her heart. If this potion is so good, why not make more for all mutants to inject? The British foreign minister, a gloomy man, asked. Katie smiled bitterly. The reason is simple, we don't have that much money. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 863 The Price of the Troublemaker. The new potion can alleviate the side effects of the X gene. In fact, this is the result of Dr. Hank's research for many years, but there have been some breakthroughs recently. Katie said this to the foreign ministers of various countries through a video conference. In fact, Professor X and Dr. Hank are both committed to alleviating the conflict between mutants and ordinary people. And I am their student, and I share the same concept as them. At the same time, Dr. Hank is an outstanding scientist. I believe everyone has heard of this. He has profound attainments in genetics and biology. Katie was telling the truth. Dr. Hank's research level is not a secret. In fact, when he was young, he joined the X-Men formed by SHIELD. Including the invisible materials of SHIELD sky carriers were all made by him. Dr. Hank and Professor Charles have always had a semi-official identity. Before the Xavier School for Geniuses was closed, the US government was very clear about their movements. The mutant school formed by Professor Charles and Dr. Hank was used to balance Magneto's mutant brotherhood. However, due to various accidents, the Xavier School for Geniuses was forced to close. And so far, the US government has lost the whereabouts of Professor Charles and others, and it is difficult to track him. After all, this is Professor X, a man who has been fighting Magneto Max for nearly half a century. SHIELD, FBI and other organizations have listed Magneto as the most wanted criminal and have been hunting him for so many years without catching him. If Professor X doesn't want others to find him, then these intelligence agencies really can't catch him. The only thing that can make people feel at ease is that Professor Charles is a pacifist, not a radical like Magneto. Otherwise, the US president would not be able to sleep well at night. In fact, most people can guess that Professor X was the driving force behind the establishment of Tuvalu. This guess is not completely accurate. Because the members of the new X-Men team formed by Tuvalu are almost all teachers or students of Xavier's School for Gifted People. Although Charles Xavier has never officially appeared. But everyone believes that Professor Charles is the mastermind behind all this. However, even if he is hiding behind the scenes, Charles's way of doing things is still moderate, although the establishment of Tuvalu is very surprising. But Tuvalu's formal methods are not radical. Especially now that a newborn potion has been created. It relieves the pain of the pathological changes of epsilon-level mutants, but it will eliminate the X gene. Well, if someone else were to do this, they probably wouldn't do it. But if Professor Charles was the good guy behind it, he would do this kind of thing that would hurt himself and benefit others. Tuvalu has just started to develop, and it needs a large number of mutants to work together to create a strong country. The new potion will undoubtedly split the mutants who were originally united into two groups. This kind of thing looks stupid in the eyes of politicians. After all, Professor Charles is still not a qualified politician. Even if he can teach some very good students, those students may be very good in thought and have high moral standards. But politics is not played like this. Tuvalu's self-destructive behavior made politicians from other countries applaud. Especially after Katie had clearly revealed that this potion was developed by Dr. Hank, everyone vaguely felt that it was Professor X's hand. If Professor X was behind Tuvalu, then these foreign ministers would have a plan. They knew how to deal with this matter. At least the credibility of the new potion had risen from 5% to 20%. This is already a significant increase. After all, Professor Charles has always been a semi-public figure. His name is on the list of global leaders. After half a century of research and observation, everyone knows him well. Of course, they have studied Professor Charles very thoroughly, but what if the opponent is not actually Professor Charles? Or what if Professor Charles is just being pushed out as a smokescreen? The complexity of the entire X rebirth plan and the twists and turns in it are beyond the imagination of ordinary people. In Li Ji's opinion, this plan is much more difficult than killing Hydra. The newborn potion, Dr. Hank has been studying it for almost half a century. It is dedicated to alleviating the pathological problems of epsilon-level mutants. We know that many mutants actually do not have many practical abilities, but they have to bear the side effects brought by their mutant abilities. This seriously troubles their daily lives. The purpose of Tuvalu is to allow more mutants to have a better life. Since these people's abilities have caused them trouble, then we should naturally reach out to help our compatriots and let them live a better life. Katie spoke sincerely. This girl under the age of 20 was sincere. Because everything she said came from her true thoughts, not some acting skills. Therefore, even those foreign ministers who could see through people's hearts and had long dealt with all kinds of monsters and demons did not think there was any flaw in what Katie said. Then since this medicine is so good, you should produce more and help those mutants in need. Isn't this your responsibility? Since you said that the purpose of establishing Tuvalu is to make more mutants live better. The British foreign minister continued to ask questions. Katie smiled bitterly and shook her head. I said, we don't have that much money. It is very expensive to make this batch of medicine. In fact, we only made about 200 medicines and we can't do anything. The foreign ministers of various countries fell silent. The US foreign minister frowned and asked, "Let me get this straight. I don't really trust your medicine. Tell me exactly what your purpose is." Katie raised her eyebrows and nonchalantly retorted, "I can provide 1 or 2 medicines to your US Drug Regulatory Department. I know there are many people in the United States who discriminate against mutants. I have met them. You can study these medicines carefully. Maybe those radicals who oppose mutants will clamor for all mutants in the United States to be injected with this medicine." Ahem. The US foreign minister coughed unnaturally twice. In fact, what Katie said was not wrong. There have been discussions within Congress. If this medicine is really harmless, maybe someone will really promote the full injection of the new medicine. Maybe it will be included in the vaccine. Americans are very open, but on the other hand, they are also conservative and stubborn, especially some radicals. They are no longer stubborn but paranoid. Okay, President Katie, this is not the time to say emotional words. We really hope to understand the real effect of this medicine. It was the Chinese foreign minister who spoke up to smooth things over. As the country with the largest number of mutants, China also has the largest number of epsilon-level mutants. Compared with mutants of other levels, epsilon is the worst. It is not an exaggeration to say that they have lifelong disabilities, and various side effects have seriously affected their daily work and life. Although China is very lenient towards mutants and also uses the abilities of mutants in every corner of production and life, but epsilon-level mutants can't help it all. To say something unpleasant that has never been made public, epsilon level is a group of waste, and it is better not to have such mutant abilities. Because the status of mutants in China is different from that in other countries, this has led to epsilon-level mutants being listed as the minimum standard for medical insurance and social security for the disabled. Just the annual expenditure of this part makes China feel very painful. This is not a small amount of money. If the side effects of epsilon-level mutants can be completely cured, then spending a little money is completely acceptable. I said, the real effect of this medicine is as I just said, there is no adulteration. There is indeed no adulteration, because this is only the original medicine in the new medicine of Plan X, and Dr. Hank has not added the condiments of the mutant abilities. If it is mass-produced, what will the output and investment be? The Chinese foreign minister asked with great interest. If the annual output is 500,000 medicines, the initial investment of the entire production line will be no less than $2 billion. The production cost of the first batch of medicines will be extremely high, but the subsequent costs can be reduced. Katie said the price agreed by Li Ji and Tony at the beginning. If the scale is to be expanded, then the investment will continue to be additional. So what if China is interested in cooperating with Tuvalu? The Chinese foreign minister asked directly in front of the other foreign ministers. Anyway, everyone here knows the strategic relationship between China and Tuvalu, so there is no need to hide it. I'm sorry, we can't provide technology sharing cooperation. For some reasons. Katie glanced at the foreign ministers of the United States and the United Kingdom. This technology may be a boon to mutants, but it may also be highly toxic. We can't give the initiative to others. We can provide drugs as a source of follow-up financing, just like crowdfunding products. But we will not provide and share technology. Katie said, looking at the many foreign ministers. Since developed countries can provide funds for Russia to reduce nuclear weapons, and can also help underdeveloped countries reduce greenhouse gas emissions, then why not try to help more people? Everyone was silent. They still had their own calculations to make. Tuvalu wants to get something for nothing? That's not that simple. Dumb listened to Li Ji's statements expressionlessly, and finally said, "You mean you want me to be a troublemaker? Do you think I look like a British? I am a genuine Slav and have nothing to do with the unruly Saxons." Li Ji shook his head. "Don't call me a troublemaker. Isn't this helpful to more people? But are you planning to empty my private vault? Billions of dollars, this is not a small amount of money, to build momentum for Tuvalu." Dumb still said this coldly. "You did invest billions today, but it's not free. You have to consider the benefits of the subsequent political impact on you. Well, even if you don't plan to be the ruler of Latvia in the future, it's always good to leave a good reputation, right?" Dumb snorted at what Li Ji said, and he sneered. "Okay, I know you don't care about reputation, but don't you want to return to being a handsome guy?" Li Ji continued. Dumb continued coldly, "I don't think my face is worth billions of dollars. Okay. All sales of X newborn potion, beauty potion, in 30 countries in Eastern Europe and Central Asia for the next 10 years are yours. Seeing that Doom was not fooled at all, Luigi could only use his trump card. Doom smiled. 30 years. Luigi, 15 years. That's already a lot. Do you know how much it's worth? Doom, but the risk is just as big. It's not worth taking the risk without enough benefits. 25 years. Luigi, okay, one price. All sales in 30 countries for 20 years. I promise not to let any bottle of potion that is not sold by you end up in Eastern Europe. Doom smiled. Deal. The two big hands held together and reached a consensus. Chapter 864. Because everyone understands relationships, this book will not write any names when describing any politicians unless necessary, and will only use job titles. The mutants and Tuvalu want to get something for nothing, said one of the three bigwigs in the U.S. Congress at a private party. In addition to the bigwigs in Congress, the Deputy Secretary of State also attended the private party. He came to the party on behalf of the Secretary of State, and there were also agents from the White House. The president did not want to come in person because he would be leaving office at the end of the year, and it was better to have less trouble than more. Unlike politicians such as Congress and the Secretary of State, the president is the pinnacle of political power in the United States, but also the end of his political life. But unless you can create a political family while you are in office, otherwise, when you step down, your political life will end. Congress may be re-elected, and the Secretary of State may be replaced. But these politicians can still rise and fall in the political arena, but the president cannot. If you retire, you will retire, and go to the farm to write books and raise horses with peace of mind. No new president will like the various forces left by the previous president. Therefore, compared to the president who has already started to prepare for retirement by purchasing a farm in Kansas, other politicians in Congress are more concerned about Tuvalu. Because as long as the president survives the last few months, everything in the future will have nothing to do with him. But these people can't do that. As long as they can still hold power, they don't want to retire. The drug launched by Tuvalu seems to be a blessing for mutants alone, but it has a great impact on domestic politics in the United States. The congressional leader said with some teeth itching, they sent a few drugs, and I asked the Food and Drug Administration to concentrate on testing. And also found 2 voluntary experimenters. Both of them are epsilon-level mutants, and the side effects of mutation are very serious. They began to get better within 3 days after the injection of the drug. Currently, the drug department is conducting follow-up observations, and no harm has been found yet. And as the young female president said, their X gene activity is constantly fading, and it will soon be undetectable. The congressional leader said a little dryly. The Deputy Secretary of State nodded. This is a good thing. If this drug is really useful, we can indeed purchase a batch of it. It is not only about considering the needs of the people, but also there are many politically favorable factors, which can be seen. The White House representative did not bring his mouth this time. The president made it very clear that listening and watching are enough, and don't talk too much. If there are any problems, the president will discuss them with Congress privately. But this is a free-for-all. They don't want to provide technology nor can they disclose methods. They just want us to buy this drug through crowdfunding. Do you know the risks involved? The attitude of the congressional leaders is actually the attitude of a group of members of Congress. What you said makes sense, but have you seen the current news? Since the news of Tuvalu's new drug spread, the mutants have become unstable. Epsilon-class mutants, or some Delta-class mutants, without major defects, but at the same time without any ability, can't sit still. These people account for nearly 60 to 70% of the total mutant population. The Deputy Secretary of State frowned. I have always been against using mutants as a political topic to attack opponents or to promote oneself. This is a double-edged sword that can hurt others as well as oneself. We have made huge political mistakes in our mutant policy. Regarding the words of the Deputy Secretary of State, the congressional leader just looked at him deeply and said, that's only because Tuvalu has appeared now. If Tuvalu hadn't been a troublemaker, I don't think there's anything wrong with our policy. This is just an accident. The problem is that this troublemaker has indeed stirred up the situation in our country. Now I hear from the news below that many mutants have begun to find ways to cross the ocean to Tuvalu. The Deputy Secretary of State had a headache. The attitude of the United States and a group of allied countries led by the United States towards mutants has always been not very good, but they have maintained a delicate balance. This makes mutants not very comfortable, but it is not to the point where they can't survive completely. Everyone is silently enduring, because there is no hope, and there is no difference between struggling and not struggling. Unless you want to have a violent revolution like Magneto, but how many people have such determination and courage? After all, there are few such people. Most people like Professor Charles moderates, hoping to change their living environment subtly over time. This is a helpless solution. To put it bluntly, it is not proactive at all and is a bit passive. But now a turnaround and new hope have appeared. The news of the X Reborn potion suddenly exploded in this world. Countless reporters waiting for news in New Zealand have accepted President Katie's invitation. Yes, we have indeed developed such new drugs. They can relieve various diseases caused by the awakening of the X gene. We do not deny that the awakening of X has certain side effects, but we should treat this matter correctly and find a cure. Instead of simply shouting and killing, this is not a good thing for mutants and ordinary people. Katie said to the reporters. A reporter from Al Jazeera asked, since this drug is so good, why not mass produce it? Let more mutants get help? It's undoubtedly offensive. I don't discriminate against mutants. But the child of a couple next door to me is a mutant. He is Epsilon level and was originally a healthy child. But the awakening of the X gene paralyzed his lower body. Because his legs merged together, he was like a mermaid in the movie. But life is not as beautiful as the movie. This side effect made him unable to run and play anymore, and his parents cried all day long. Katie sighed, I hope to help more people, but it's difficult. We have financial difficulties. Tuvalu is just a small country. We don't have so many sources of funds to do this. And for various reasons, the international community may not be willing to finance us. Katie's words were very obscure, but everyone vaguely guessed what she was talking about. This kind of political factor can never be explained publicly. With Katie's press conference and what she said, as well as more details of the X new drug being disclosed, those who suffer from mutant lesions can no longer sit still. No money? Exclamation mark. How much does it cost? Billions of dollars. I don't have it, but we can raise funds. Under the leadership of some people with good intentions, members of the Mutant Brotherhood who acted underground, in order to have a chance to cure their diseases, mutants in the United States and other countries suddenly united. In many cases, this group of people scattered, and in fact, people are like this. Without serious persecution or huge temptation, if everyone does not have a unified goal, everyone will fight on their own. After all, it is difficult to manage oneself, how can you manage others? Magneto's earliest anti's plan was like this, letting the government over-oppress mutants until they were all forced to rebel. This is a means of uniting everyone. The other is to let everyone have common demands and common interests. In this way, everyone can also unite together. There is no doubt that the X Rebirth Plan and the establishment of Tuvalu are of this kind. In particular, how attractive is the newborn potion to Epsilon-level mutants? Many people may not want to join Tuvalu for various reasons, but they are willing to go bankrupt for the newborn potion. It's not just these Epsilon-class mutants, but also their families, relatives and friends. Not all mutants don't have friends and family. This is a powerful force, and this force of unity has begun to burn more and more. No money? Crowdfunding? No suitable platform? We build it ourselves. The law doesn't allow it? We find a way to promote it. Demonstrations, marches, sit-ins. This time the people's demands are very simple. We tolerate the exclusion of mutants and the denial of jobs for mutants. We also tolerate the inconvenience of many mutants having to endure various side effects in life. But now there is hope. We can become ordinary people and stay away from the torture of these diseases. If there are still people who want to jump out to stop us, then sorry, we can't tolerate it. We want to live. I don't know where, when and by whom this slogan came from. But it soon spread everywhere, not just in the United States. Epsilon-class and Delta-class mutants in many countries, as well as a small number of Beta-class mutants, joined the protest march. They are protesting the government's inaction. At the same time, they are also complaining that they want to crowdfund Tuvalu's drug production line through cross-border fundraising, but they are blocked by the Ministry of Finance. Billions or even more US dollars just flowed overseas without any value creation, and the financial department of any country would block it. You don't save us, but you don't let us save ourselves? Exclamation mark. This is intolerable. The Secretary of State and the bigwigs in Congress are really having a headache. What did Katie from Tuvalu do wrong in this matter? At least not from a moral perspective. As for the political level? Well, it's not the same political system, so there's no right or wrong. And now the demonstrations and marches that are coming one after another are really starting to unite the mutants. The originally scattered mutants did not have much influence on this country, but when a group begins to unite, from scattered hundreds of thousands or millions of individuals to whole of hundreds of millions of people, then its energy is immeasurable. It's really a shit troublemaker. The bigwigs in Congress couldn't sleep at night thinking about the recent situation. In his opinion, Tuvalu is already the biggest shit troublemaker, but is it really so? The super troublemaker that someone bought with a huge profit of the next 20 years has not yet started to work. Once this super troublemaker starts to work, the bigwigs in Congress will not only be unable to sleep, but will probably want to die. The super troublemaker prepared by someone has now returned to his territory, Latveria. Doom, wearing an iron mask, said to his finance minister, "If I spend some money to do good things, will it make Latveria and my reputation better? It's the beginning of the month. What about the monthly vote? Vote when you should. Everyone." Chapter 865. The Troublemaker. What? The finance minister of Latveria suspected that his ears were damaged due to his age. What did he just hear? What did his monarch, the great, wise, extremely intelligent, unprecedented Saint Doom, say? He said he wanted to use a sum of money to support Tuvalu, and it is likely to be free of charge. Doom, Latveria does not allow the belief in any religion other than Doomism. God, Allah, and Buddha are all heresies in Latveria. Only Doom is great and correct. Is Lord Doom crazy? No. How could Lord Doom be crazy? It must be that he did not understand his thoughts and did not guess the deeper meaning. He is still far away from Lord Doom's thoughts. The finance minister thought so. In Latveria, Dr. Doom has the final say. Whatever he says here is the truth. He is the only true God and ruler of this country. It is not without reason that Doom is called the most terrible dictator in human history by outsiders. Judging from the various things he did, he has indeed gone beyond the scope of ordinary dictators. If you have to find an analogy, perhaps the Hollywood satire The Great Dictator is a bit similar to Doom. Of course, this movie is not really a reflection of Doom. In fact, the prototype is someone else who only mentioned Doom in a very peripheral way. Even in Hollywood, no one wants to mess with Doom. The director who played a little marginal ball felt that it didn't matter if he did it, but he thought it didn't matter, but that didn't mean Doom thought it didn't matter. The director of this movie almost died in a car accident, and since then, anything related to Doom has become a taboo in Hollywood. Don't think you are safe in the United States. Doom is a petty person. If he doesn't like you, he will send someone to kill you, and even if he can't kill you, he will kill you half to death. For example, the director of this movie was lame in one leg after the car accident. If there are movies related to Doom, then you should think about it in advance. The petty Doom is likely to launch an intercontinental missile at you when you are flying over the Pacific Ocean. Believe me, he can do it. Anyway, that's what Hollywood says. Anyway, in the legend, Doom is such a guy who is extremely dictatorial, arbitrary, narrow-minded and doesn't care about the impact of the international community. He doesn't need to explain anything to anyone, nor does he need to be responsible to anyone. Why do you do this? Because this thing makes me happy. Doom said this when he was asked why he wanted to fund Tuvalu's new medicine. Latvia rarely held an international press conference. Although all the reporters attending the meeting were controlled, they could not leave the delegation to visit Latvia, and they were also subject to a lot of surveillance. But there were still many people who came to attend this press conference. Because this news is still very valuable, the reporters who came to this press conference came here with the mood of participating in battlefield reporting. Since the last time Latvia launched its own Ark spacecraft, this small Eastern European country that stirred up the international situation and the Eastern European power once again did something that puzzled everyone. Doom really intends to take out billions of dollars to help Tuvalu set up a pharmaceutical factory and set up a production line. And it also announced to the world that all new drugs that can relieve the side effects of mutants will be sold by Latveria in the future. Everyone was a little confused by this news. What exactly is Doom going to do? This is a question that everyone wants to figure out. So at the rare press conference, especially when Doom was standing on the newsstand, some reporters still pretended to be brave and asked, "Dear Mr. Doom, why do you want to do this? To help mutants?" Or have you reached some kind of agreement with Tuvalu? After asking this question, the reporter's legs were a little weak. Because there are Latvian soldiers holding hot melt guns everywhere. Who knows if someone will shoot him if he asks a bad question. Thinking of the various messages about doom in the market, the reporter comrade thinks this possibility is very high. If you don't attend this press conference to win your qualifications so that you can get promoted quickly, who would come here? The reporters who come here are those strong men who can write press releases without changing their faces on the battlefield with stray bullets flying. But even so, many reporters still felt their calves cramping when facing doom. This also reflects the gap between them and Strange. At least Strange, who had heard those terrible rumors, was not so unbearable when facing doom. So he was also looked at differently by doom, and he was given more care. I said, I have no other purpose in doing this. It's just because it makes me happy. Doom's tone under the iron mask had an inexplicable feeling. I am a person who finds it difficult to feel happy. So I will generally do things that make me happy. Because of helping mutants. Another reporter asked, and immediately sat down and shut up, as if Doom couldn't see him. Doom glanced at him, and the monitor on the iron mask magnified the reporter's badge. Doom smiled, reporter from the Associated Press. The reporter shuddered. The relationship between the United States and Latvia is average. Help mutants? Huh. Doom laughed meaninglessly. Maybe, some people say that helping others can make you happy. But I don't think this is entirely accurate. Because the happiness you can get from just helping others is too little. It's best to help others while also making those you hate suffer. That's the best. Doom pointed to the reporter from the Associated Press. America? I don't like this country. I don't like the politicians in this country. I heard that there are demonstrations in your country? Those lower-level mutants have already had conflicts because of the new potion? It doesn't matter, I can help you. All mutants who give up their American citizenship and join Latvian citizenship and can pass the review can get a new potion. I can let them give priority to production regardless of cost. Doom smiled, but what he said was chilling. In the future, all new potions will be sold by Latvia. The output of this potion is not high, and it probably can't be available to everyone. Maybe we need to divide the sales area first? I think 3,000 doses a year is enough for the United States. Of course, this requires the U.S. drug regulatory authorities to agree to the drug being marketed. Don't expect me to bribe those parasites. If they don't allow the drug to be marketed in the United States, that's their business. Doom said to the global audience bluntly, it is those politicians who want to kill all of you mutants, not me, Doom. Of course, you can immigrate to other countries in the Eastern European Union. Their immigration restrictions are easier than Latvia. Why not choose to stay in the United States and wait for death, or try to find a new opportunity in Eastern Europe? Bang! Damn Doom! Does he want to start a war? The bigwigs of the U.S. Congress yelled at the President and the Secretary of Defense in the White House, and the two of them also looked livid. Chapter 866 I am very happy. Doom's actions have seriously infringed upon the interests of the United States. The bigwigs in Congress were furious. He is blatantly declaring war on the authority of the United States. He is defying us. The bigwigs' fury was justified. Because Doom's statement was very direct, he clearly wanted to frame the U.S. government. Think about it, the United States has a population of 300 million. Even if the probability of mutants being born is 1 in 1,000, there are still 300,000 mutants in the United States. For a country with a population of 300 million, 300,000 people is not a lot, but it is not a small number. Among these 300,000, about 70% are Delta-class mutants, that is, ordinary mutants like Submarine Bob and Mr. William with bright fingers. The abilities of this kind of mutants are basically useless, but they will not cause any great harm to them. There are also 20% of Epsilon-class mutants. It is not an exaggeration to say that these people are living in dire straits. The remaining 10% are a small number of Gamma-class mutants, capable but defective, an even smaller number of Beta-class mutants, capable but not too defective, and the rare Alpha-class mutants, powerful and without defects. As for the legendary Omega-level mutants, the US government has not really mastered the information of these people. Professor X kept the 2 Omega-level mutants, Iceman and Phoenix, under his command very secret. The work of mutants has also been handled by S.H.I.E.L.D. According to the wishes of the government, a balanced policy is implemented. This policy has never changed because of the change of the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. Whether the director is Nick Fury or Maria Hill, They can't do anything about it. This balanced policy has always been implemented very well, and Professor Charles, the moderate leader, has been trying to calm the agitated mood of the mutants. The students who came out of Xavier's School for the Gifted are also a huge force in Charles' hands. For so many years, no politician has ever wanted to really solve the mutant problem thoroughly. Because this kind of thing is very troublesome. Many things are like this. Once a bad start is made, it is difficult to stop the car, especially when you are the beneficiary of this matter. It is even more impossible to jump out and do anything. In fact, 300,000 mutants plus their relatives and friends are counted together. The scale of these people has reached 1 million. For so many years, the US government's balanced policy has been effective, so no one wants to clean up the mutants. Because politics is like this, if you do something, it may not be good, but if you don't do it, it may not be bad. People in high positions often need to minimize risks. Although maximizing benefits sounds tempting, the risks are equally great. For people in high positions, sometimes the risk considerations are more than the benefits. But when a greater risk comes, some people subconsciously consider how to shirk responsibility, instead of considering why they didn't solve the matter as soon as possible, making things worse. For example, the mutant potion incident this time. Doom's seemingly bland and cold speech actually dropped a heavy bomb on the whole world. He took out billions of dollars for free and asked for an exclusive license for the new potion. After confirming the news with President Katie of Tuvalu, all countries felt a chill in their heads. Do you know that this is not a good thing for Tuvalu? Doom is not a person with much credibility in the international community. Cooperating with him is equivalent to cutting yourself off from the international community. Representatives from the United States and the United Kingdom came to Tuvalu together, and they made such remarks on behalf of the political forces behind them. There is no other way. We lack funds. And Doom has shown his sincerity. He has begun to deliver various materials to help us set up production lines. For us, helping mutants is the first priority, and political considerations are the second. Facing political pressure from the United States and other countries, Katie did not back down at all. For me, this is not politics, but humanity and morality. There is no room for bargaining when it comes to helping my compatriots. Katie's speech was righteous and awe-inspiring, and her words were also in line with Tuvalu's consistent purpose. I said a long time ago that this matter is not a consideration of a country or a political system, but a choice of humanity. I made my choice, and I am worthy of my conscience and justice. I have no regrets. These words choked the British and American representatives on what they wanted to say next. Because at this time they realized that they were not facing a cunning politician. Politicians will analyze gains and losses and estimate risks. And Katie? She is just a girl under 20 years old. She still has the naivety of believing that there is justice in this world. To put it bluntly, she is a bit of a middle school kid. You want to analyze the pros and cons with her? I guess it's impossible. She is already questioning you from a moral high ground. What are you talking about? This is another advantage of being young. If Katie were in her 30s now, she would probably be considered to have ulterior motives if she said these things. But now she is less than 20 years old, and some people really believe what she said, and believe that this is what she thinks in her heart. And later, Katie also publicly issued a statement on her personal blog. It was about the cooperation plan between Tuvalu and Latvia. This cooperation is not permanent, but a 20-year underwriting agreement. In other words, Tuvalu exchanged the sales rights of the new drug for billions of dollars in financial support from Latvia for the next 20 years. Inside the White House, the bigwigs of Congress were furious. Doom is crazy. He is really crazy. What good is there for him to do this? It hurts others and does not benefit himself. The president was calm. No, at least he got happiness. This is the biggest gain. Mr. President was right. If Doom knew that the top leaders of the United States could jump up and down and get angry because of his behavior, then he should be happy to eat 2 more baguettes for dinner. Doom's speech had a huge impact on the world. For example, in the United States, there were people who applied for the survival of Latvia. And I don't know if Doom deliberately made things difficult for the US government. He quickly approved these people's applications. The first batch of 100 Epsilon-level mutants joined Latvia. Doom also held a grand ceremony. He spared no effort to have a TV show broadcast live around the world. At the scene, Doom issued residence certificates to all mutants who joined Latvia, and also gave them injections of rebirth potions. The side effects of the mutations of these epsilon-level mutants are very serious. To put it bluntly, the side effects of some people have almost put them on the verge of death. Doom had these 100 epsilon-level mutants injected with regeneration drugs. He also held a live speech broadcast live around the world. He had people hack into the display screens in Times Square in New York, and then switched the screen to his speech. Dr. Hank and Tony Stark, we really don't like doing this kind of thing, as if we are the minions of the big villain. Look, citizens of the great free country. Look at the tall buildings around you. Those things that you feel excited and proud of. Look at how much dirt and ugliness are hidden underneath them. Some people don't treat people as human beings, but as humble ants. It seems that everything can be rubbed and trampled at will by those high and mighty. Life is not respected, and they accuse my country of not respecting human rights every day. Doom snorted coldly. Those people are pointing at my country, Latvia, and saying that there is no freedom, no democracy, and no justice. Haha. But they don't know how to look back at themselves, because at least in my country, my citizens have the right to survive. Doom pointed at the Epsilon-class mutants and said, these are the people who escaped from the great country of freedom. The people in high places don't save these people's lives, nor do they allow them to save themselves. They call it national interests. But whose country is this country? Doom pointed at himself. I am called the world's largest dictator. I bluntly say that Latvia is my personal property, including all the citizens. But I cherish my personal property, just like you cherish your handmade carpets or smart TVs at home. Doom pointed in the direction of the TV camera again. And what about those countries that claim freedom and justice? Who is in charge? Who is the master of those countries? Is it you in front of the screen, or those people in high places? My country is said to be very oppressive, with no breathing space and no free discussion. But other than that, my citizens have everything. They have food, work, income, and the right to survive. Doom said in a serious tone, and you? Maybe you have freedom, but apart from freedom, you probably have nothing. As for why I want to give this TV speech and invade the signals of the United States and other countries to let you see this video? Because I know that my speech will make a group of people restless and busy jumping up and down. I know all this, and I like all of this. Making those superiors restless, I feel unprecedented happiness. Ha 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 ha. There was indescribable joy in Doom's laughter. Chapter 867. The most important thing in life is to be happy. Venus Base. I find that I am beginning to appreciate Nightwalker a little bit now. Magneto Max watched Doom's domineering speech on the monitor. Magneto touched his chin and beard roots and said happily, I haven't been so happy for a long time. Let those guys who think everything is under their control experience the feeling of everything being out of their control. I think this feeling is great. Sitting next to Magneto is his old friend Professor X Charles. Professor Charles also watched Doom's speech about the mutant heart regenerating potion. He couldn't help but touch his bald head. I don't know if this is right or wrong. What we are doing is really not something that only the villains in those heroic comics can do. Ha ha ha. Marx laughed heartily. Does it matter? I said it a long time ago that violence cannot solve the problem. The peaceful advancement you pursue cannot solve the problem either. Only revolution is the only way to solve the problem. But you have never listened to me. See, isn't this the way we have to go in the end? But this is not a violent revolution. Charles' tone increased. We just let those willful politicians return to the negotiating table and think carefully about how to deal with the mutant problem. This is just giving the world one more choice. Huh? Is there a difference? It's also a revolution, but it's carried out a little more obscurely. What we are doing now is just like forcing a cat to lower its head to drink water. Although the cat will struggle and resist, as long as you are more patient than the cat, it will always succumb if you keep forcing it. As long as you can endure scratching and biting, you will always succeed one day, said Magneto. Charles did not comment on Magneto's words. He changed the subject. So according to your theory, have you dealt with Wanda, Scarlet, and Pietro, Quicksilver? Did you succeed in forcing them to bow their heads and call you Dad? Magneto Marx. One day. Professor Charles smiled. I wish you success. I heard that they are now on a better relationship with Miss Lorena who teaches them music. I even heard that Wanda secretly longs for Lorena to be her mother. Magneto Marx. I will succeed. But the tone did not sound as firm as before. Professor Charles shrugged, as long as you are happy. In another room, Captain Rogers, Tony Stark and Dr. Banner gathered together. Thor and Dr. Hank were not there. Because Thor pulled Dr. Hank away. The reason was that Thor did not like the nano-armor he used to conceal his identity. Although it usually looks like a belt, when it is needed, the nano-armor plus Dr. Hank's phantom camouflage technology can turn him into the Dragon Warrior. But every time he transforms, he shouts, "Dragon Warrior transforms." Is this embarrassing? I have never watched the Dragon Warrior cartoon, and I don't have such a childhood feeling. Tony Stark forced his hobby on me. Why doesn't he build a Dragon Warrior mecha for himself? Then every time Iron Man attacks, he shouts, "I will form the head." Thor hangs around in the welfare home, and is accompanied by children. Especially a group of children like Penny. For them, there is nothing more important in life than watching cartoons. So Thor also knows the names and lines of many cartoons through osmosis. Facing Thor's questioning, Dr. Hank pushed his black-framed glasses and guessed, "Maybe it's because it's too embarrassing." Thor: "I don't care about face." Dr. Hank pushed his black-framed glasses, "Maybe for Tony, other people's face is not considered face. It's actually good to satisfy his own life sentiments. In fact, Tony is using the technology accumulated from the manufacture of the Venus fleet to design a completely new space battleship." Thor raised his eyebrows. "Why haven't I heard of it?" Dr. Hank shook his head, and his blue hair suddenly turned golden, looking like a golden lion king, and said, "Maybe it's because it's too embarrassing. Because the new battleship he designed looks like an old Japanese cartoon space battleship Yamato." Nightwalker had discussed with him before whether to manufacture a high-mobility weapon Ms. Gundam, but Tony criticized Nightwalker for being useless. If this project was known, Nightwalker would definitely laugh back. Thor's eyes flashed, as if he had thought of some plan. Dr. Hank said that he saw nothing and said nothing. Dr. Hank, space battleship Yamato? A mobile coffin in the universe? Haha. Okay, Dr. Hank, let's not talk about these for now. Let's help me solve the problem of shouting slogans every time I use the armor. This one is low-end. It's a loss of my identity. After all, I am the Prince of Asgard. Dr. Hank dismantled the nano-armor brought by Thor and began to check. It's more complicated than I thought. It seems that Tony has used a high level of confidentiality to ensure that you need to shout this sentence every time you transform. Thor: "He is sick." Dr. Hank: "Maybe he thinks he is happy every time he sees you shouting slogans like this. After all, happiness is the most important thing." Dr. Hank and Thor are solving the problem of shouting slogans to transform. Li Ji and several other Illuminati giants gathered together to discuss the matter about Doom. It is indeed a huge expense to give Doom all the distribution rights of the X-Rebirth potion for the 30 Eastern European countries in the next 20 years. But it seems worth it at the moment. Captain Rogers glanced at Tony. Tony shrugged. "Actually, Doom can take all of them. I really don't want to sell cosmetics or anything like that. If it weren't for that damn plan, I definitely don't want to be a superstar. It's the king of drugstore cosmetics, Tony." Li Ji corrected the word Tony didn't say. "It's drugstore cosmetics." "Damn it, I know it's drugstore cosmetics, but can you not mention it in front of me? Now I attend celebrity parties in Hollywood, and everyone who comes to get close to me wants to get cosmetics from me. Damn it, when did I become an Amway salesman?" Tony is very resistant to the two nicknames of King of Drugstore Cosmetics and Bald Nemesis. Because these two nicknames are too tacky. "Please, I'm a big guy walking at the forefront of fashion." Tony thought helplessly, but he was powerless to change the status quo. Dr. Banner ignored Tony's dissatisfaction and changed the subject. "But it is indeed the most appropriate to let Doom do this. This way we can put pressure on the government and let them know that, even if you don't do it, someone will do it." Li Ji nodded. "Not only that, the most important thing is that Doom's doing this will make senior officials uneasy. It's true that the United States is an immigration country, but it has always been foreigners who immigrated to the United States. When did the United States have large-scale immigration? If hundreds of thousands of mutants are really allowed to immigrate, then the guys who oppose mutants will be happy. But the politicians may not be happy, because this will cause a huge trend. Is the US government really starting to give up on mutants?" Li Ji said with a smile. "We all know that mutant awakening is uncontrollable. Who knows, someone might become a mutant one day. Even if there are 150 million people in the United States who hate mutants, there are at least 150 million people who sympathize with it or wait and see. These people are somewhat rational, especially after Tuvalu was established. The three newly established X-Men teams spread the knowledge of the X gene all over the world, making everyone understand the uncontrollability of the X gene. Li Ji held up a finger. They are not sure whether they or their children and relatives will become mutants in the future. If a huge immigration trend is really formed this time, will the United States become a situation like this in the future? As long as mutants awaken, they must immigrate immediately? This is not a good thing for the government. What Li Ji said was just some superficial things. There were some deeper things he didn't say, but everyone present knew the meaning behind those words without saying them. What if this matter is not just an immigration trend? What if it caused a greater response? Now Doom has thrown all the pressure on other governments in the world, including the US government. At this moment, it can be said that Tuvalu, Latvia and the Illuminati have the upper hand. In order to make this fire burn more and more, I have asked the Mutant Brotherhood members under Magneto to spread some news and chicken soup. Li Ji's words aroused the interest of the other three. Captain Rogers asked, "What news and chicken soup?" "The same old stuff. Do you remember the European fable? At first they hunted down the communists. I didn't speak because I was not a communist. Then they hunted down the Jews. I didn't speak because I was not a Jew. Later they hunted down the Union members. I didn't speak because I was not a Union member. After that they hunted down the Catholics. I didn't speak because I was a Protestant. Finally they came for me, but no one stood up to speak for me." Li Ji looked at the three people and said, "It's a very old-fashioned thing, but it works very well at this time." Tony Stark touched his beard. "I don't object to your statement, but wouldn't it be too deliberate to do this? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that someone is behind it." Captain Rogers and Dr. Banner nodded behind their backs. Li Ji waved his hands. "Don't worry, Doom will take responsibility for all of this. It will be Doom's responsibility to investigate in the future. He is born to do these things, and the governments of the United States and other countries can't do anything to him." Dr. Banner asked in disbelief, "Is he willing to take the blame?" Li Ji shook his head. "For Doom, this is not a blame. He enjoys these things. The more the US government hates him, the happier he is. As for whether it is a blame or not, he doesn't care." Captain Rogers, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, really? They all have such questions in their hearts. Li Ji continued to wave his hands. "Doom is very happy, so, the most important thing for a person is to be happy. P.S. Please vote, please subscribe." Chapter 868 Doom joins the gang. The most important thing for a person is to be happy. Is this right? It should be right, because there is an old saying, "Money cannot buy my happiness." For people like Doom, he has very few opportunities to be happy in his life. Breakthroughs in scientific research will bring a sense of accomplishment, which is happy. But every breakthrough in research always requires time to accumulate. And there will always be a period of depressed research days before the breakthrough. And the magic that he has recently started to learn can also bring happiness to Doom. This kind of thing is very interesting. But what makes Doom unhappy is that he has an annoying junior brother, that is, Doctor Strange. If there is no junior brother, then life would be perfect. Unfortunately, now this junior brother is out of his control, which makes Doom a little unhappy. Apart from the above two things, it is difficult for Doom to feel happy. Other things, such as notifying Latveria, are just a kind of work and cannot bring him happiness. Or 10 years ago, there was a sense of authority and accomplishment brought by power, but now Doom is tired of it. Once a person is unhappy and stays in a depressed mood for a long time, he will become abnormal. For example, Doom changed all the landmarks in the country to Doom XXX, promoted the development of the Doom cult, and made the people believe in Lord Doom, and so on. All of this is because Doom is too bored. He is so bored that he needs to find fun in various ways. It is hard to imagine that a person does not have any hobbies, does not like watching movies, does not play games, and is not addicted to food, beauty, and music. These pleasures that ordinary people can stimulate the senses are useless to Doom. For Doom, these things are too boring. If he does not explode in silence, he will become perverted in silence. Doom exploded and became perverted in his bored silence. He became the most eccentric dictator in the world. No one knows what he is thinking. He does not need to explain to anyone what he is thinking. Some people say that he is the most powerful and influential psychopath in the world, and maybe this person is right. There is only a fine line between genius and madness, and Doom has been jumping on this line. However, although Doom is crazy, he still has the last bit of rationality. At least he did not torture ordinary people or start wars to amuse himself. This is at least much better than those legendary tyrants. Although many people outside think that Doom is still a tyrant. Who cares? I don't care about these things. Isn't it better for the American top leaders to be angry? Isn't it good for the British leaders to be worried and unable to sleep at night? It is said that Britain and the United States are one family. If you want to worry, you should worry together. We are all one family. The most important thing is to be neat and tidy. Doom met Leegi again. This time, Leegi could feel it from his tone and the atmosphere he exuded. Dr. Doom is now in an unprecedented state of happiness. I am very happy, very happy. I haven't been as happy as I have been in recent days for about 15 years. Doom said bluntly, now I feel that even if I am not given the 20-year sales agreement, I am willing to do these things. This makes me so happy, and these billions of dollars are worth spending. Doom found the joy of spending money. Then it settled. You are willing to give up the sales rights of 30 Eastern European countries for 20 years. Leegi doesn't care what kind of twisted mentality Doom has to find this kind of thing pleasant. Leegi is now on the hook. You said you can give up the sales rights. I didn't force you. The sales rights of X beauty potion for 20 years. Although it has not been sold yet, Leegi knows how much it is worth. Doom listened to what Leegi said and looked at him deeply. Then his tone calmed down. You are more shameless and evil than I thought. Who is the villain? Leegi shrugged. Does it matter? Have you seen an old Hong Kong movie Justice, My Foot? I appreciate a line in it. Corrupt officials are wicked, and honest officials are more wicked than corrupt officials. Otherwise, how to deal with those corrupt officials? I think this is very suitable for me. If you want to deal with the villains in this world, you need to do things according to their thinking logic. And do it more thoroughly than them. Bad guys can only be defeated by worse people. Justice and light never come for nothing. Someone always has to do the dirty work. If you want an organization to last long, someone needs to be the inside and someone needs to be the face. Doom glanced at Leegi. So you and I are responsible for doing the dirty work? And those other people, referring to Captain Rogers and Tony and others, are responsible for the face. You're right. Leegi said nonchalantly, not thinking there was anything wrong with it. This fits my character in the comics. Walking on the edge of darkness and light. Sounds cool, doesn't it? Huh? You're crazy. Doom snorted coldly. Leegi looked at Doom in surprise. Do you like working with a great guy? For example, Captain Rogers? At least on the surface, the captain is still great, huh? Doom did not answer, and continued to snort. Okay, don't be stubborn. You enjoy this action plan, don't you? You are born to do this. Make those you hate you. Leegi gave Doom a thumbs up and said. Don't you enjoy this kind of I just like the expression that you can't stand me but can't get rid of me? Admit it, you said that this is the happiest time of your 15 years. Leegi coaxed him step by step. Like I said before, join our organization. Although you are a trainee for the time being, I can guarantee that there will be many such things for you to do in the future. Isn't the most important thing for a person to be happy? When your job can make you laugh heartily, make a lot of money, and make those people you can't stand angry, what else can you be dissatisfied with? You are a good lobbyist. Doom looked at Leegi and said, but do you believe me so much? Isn't your organization pushing the whole world in a better direction? I am a dictator and a tyrant. I've never heard of a dictator getting tired of power and planning to let it go. Leegi said bluntly, in my opinion, you are just an idiot who is extremely bored and doesn't know how to make yourself happy. If you want to be happy, you are no different from a husky who is having fun playing with a ball of yarn. Please forgive me for being a little rude. But the principle is the same. Leegi obviously noticed that the atmosphere on the other side of Doomu was getting colder, but Leegi was not afraid of Doomu now. He continued to speak bluntly. You said you haven't been this happy in 15 years. How many 15 years are there in a lifetime? Do you want to live happily or live boringly? I believe it's an easy choice. Doomu didn't say a word. He stood up and looked into the distance. Then he let out a long sigh. But after we solve the mutant problem this time, there may not be such a good opportunity again. Leegi smiled and said meaningfully, the Earth is small, but the universe is vaster than you think. Let me know when you make a decision. The mutant turmoil has been getting bigger and bigger, and it's about time for those politicians to return to the negotiating table to continue to suffer your anger and frustration. You can still be happy. Let's finish these things quickly, there are more important things to deal with. Doom frowned. What? Leegi pointed in the direction of the moon. It's almost April, Dr. Reid and others should be back. I remember that you and Dr. Reid are classmates. Do you need to arrange a meeting? I heard that you haven't seen each other for a long time. In fact, Dr. Reid still misses you a little. He once said that you are the only classmate he admires. Doom was silent for a while and finally said coldly, "No need." Li Ji did not force him, but before Li Ji left, he suddenly remembered something. "By the way, is there another thing I need your help with?" "Go ahead." Doom was straightforward. "Well, the Iron Man movie is about to be released. Should Latvia and 30 Eastern European countries release it simultaneously with the rest of the world to promote it? I have a very good relationship with Tony Stark. I also wish his live-action movie a big hit at the box office. If Latvia can release it simultaneously, it will be a huge publicity point. Especially if a Hollywood movie is released in Latvia under the stalemate between Latvia and the US government." Li Ji's tone was extremely sincere. It was as if he was really asking for help for his friend Tony. It was as if his company had not invested half of the money in this Iron Man Resurrection. Chapter 869. 16 people. In Kansas, 16 young men were ready to go in a small cabin outside a wilderness. They all wore the same uniform, pure black jackets and pants, and had paint on their faces. They were also preparing some other things, including some chemical rapid burning agents and pyrotechnic signal guns. These things were civilian goods or equipment for survival in the wild, and they were easily available in outdoor stores in the United States. A dozen people made various preparations with serious faces, including checking various equipment and communication equipment. These people have one thing in common, that is, they are young. Another thing in common is that they are all mutants. And they are mutants who are very unsuccessful. Most of these 16 young men are Epsilon class, with only 2 Delta class and 1 Gamma class. Epsilon class has very weak abilities but has various defects. Delta class and Gamma class are much better, but life in the United States is still unsatisfactory most of the time, and they are always at the bottom of the society. "Are you ready, George?" The speaker was a tall and burly male mutant. His resolute appearance easily reminded people of the classic tough guy image on the screen, Rambo. The one called George was another thin young man. He didn't look strong at all, as if he would be blown down by the wind. He was typing on a laptop quickly, as if he was writing a piece of code and message. "It will be done soon, John, soon." George responded without raising his head, with some doubt in his tone, "But do we really want to do this? That's Mr. President's property." The burly man named John replied calmly, "If you have any doubts, you can quit. This is a very risky thing." Then John turned his head and looked at the other 14 people in the room and said, "Now is the last moment before the action. If you want to quit, hurry up. If we are caught, we will definitely not give out those companions who quit. We are worthy of mutual trust. This is a choice, not a coercion." None of the 14 companions said a word, they just looked at John calmly. The only Gamma-level mutant here. It can even be said that except for John, the remaining mutant companions here are not that strong. It is a bit exaggerated to say that they are old, weak, sick and disabled. But compared with them, they are not much better. "Okay, I have edited the message. It will be sent to the mailboxes of major news media on time." George said after typing the last letter on the keyboard, "Burn down the current president's farm in Kansas. I believe that many news media will be willing to report it." John nodded. The cabin they were in was not far from Mr. General's Kansas farm. It was only about 30 minutes away by fast walking. If the president came here for vacation, then this cabin would definitely not be allowed. Those bodyguards and agents would check every corner. Now the president is working in Washington. There is no one else on the farm except 4 workers who are responsible for maintaining order on the farm. But even so, John is still very cautious. This is probably related to his previous experience. John looked at the watch. There are still 10 minutes before the action starts. He looked at the nervous faces of his companions and felt that he should say something. "Are you afraid? This time our action is a one-way trip. Although the president is not here, as long as the police are called, I believe that someone will soon send helicopters and anti-explosion special police to arrest us. We will probably not be able to escape. If someone wants to quit now, I don't blame them at all." John said these words seriously, and his eyes swept over the mutant companions. Although everyone was a little scared and nervous, no one wanted to quit. John said again, "I'm not kidding, this." "Enough, John. We know what we are facing. John was interrupted before he finished speaking. This is a man with a darker complexion and a scar on his face. His name is Michael, a very common name. I know what you are going to say. We may face accusations of multiple crimes. We may be in prison for 20 to 30 years, or even worse than this. Michael waved his hand and said nonchalantly. But how good is our life now? At least we don't have to worry about food in prison. Michael's humor caused everyone to laugh, but there was unspeakable bitterness in the laughter. You were a member of the Navy SEALs. You were besieged on the battlefield and everyone thought you were dead. They even put your name on the list of dead, but no one thought you activated your mutant ability. Michael talked about John's past. He and John had known each other for a long time and knew these things very well. You saved 7 besieged companions and brought them back home. But you became a living dead. Your military status was cancelled, your social security number was erased, and there was no one like you in the whole country. You wrote so many letters to the Department of Defense. Did they respond? I accompanied you to go through a lot of procedures. Do you remember what those people looked like when they knew we were mutants? Do you remember what they said? Michael was furious. Who knows if you are a liar who used your mutant ability to defraud disability pension, huh? Is this the reward you get for your blood and sacrifice for this country? Is this what we have to do just because we are mutants? Not many people said that a farm would be burned down. Even if you want to rush into the Capitol and shoot those bigwigs with a volley of bullets, I support you. Michael said these words loudly, and pointed at his companions. Except for you, look at us. How good are we? Look at BB, a pale young man. He can't do heavy physical labor, and no one is willing to provide him with a job. He wanders around without income, and even goes to the relief station to get relief food and winter clothes and is discriminated against. What is it for? Michael shook his fist fiercely. Mutants, mutants. This is a ghost. I've had enough. If you hadn't stopped me, I would even want to retaliate against society and create terrorist attacks. Go to the concert and shoot those guys crazily. Michael was a little excited, and his face turned red. And his companions felt the same way. Most of the people gathered here today have the same experience. They have known Michael or John for a long time. They have been helping each other until now. John looked at Michael and sighed. We are not terrorists. I have shed blood and sweat for the people of this country, and I still do so today. Magneto's mutant brotherhood once wanted to recruit me, but I refused. Because I don't like what they do. Those terrorist attacks are sometimes aimed at civilians. I once stood under the national flag and swore that I would use my life's energy to uphold justice and freedom. Even today I still do so, because only in this way can I be myself. What we are going to do now is not a terrorist attack, and we are not allowed to harm the lives of the 4 workers on the farm. John looked at the crowd and said, we are just reminding this country and its leaders. When you compress the spring will rebound strongly. We are not terrorists, remember this. I have asked George to write our declaration, a letter to American fellows, and prepare to send it to major media around the world. This will record what we are doing today. Everyone was listening to John's speech carefully. Everyone was silent but felt a fire burning in their chest. John looked at his watch again, and the time was up. He waved his hand. Let's go, comrades. History will vindicate us today. A group of 16 people wearing black jackets disappeared into the vast night. 45 minutes later, the farm owned by the president of Kansas was in flames. Helicopters, fire trucks, explosion-proof special police and news media rushed over. John and 16 others stood outside the burning farm and did not leave at all. There were also 4 trembling farm workers who fell to the side. Facing the surging special police and the news media filming in the sky, John was not afraid at all, because he felt that he had a clear conscience. Do you want to be a coward for the rest of your life? Or do you want to be a hero for just a few minutes? This requires not only courage, but also the ability to keep an open mind and heart despite being suppressed and accused. The cry of revolution from the depths of your heart is only to wake up a few people. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 870 Beginning. The development of this driver is always moving forward, and will not stop because of someone or something. The voices of protests against the new drug by mutants are getting louder and louder in the United States and other countries. In particular, there are some people with ulterior motives who are inciting, Leegi, I really don't know about this. Magneto, it has nothing to do with me, and some people even shouted such slogans, since you think mutants are a disease. Now that the drug to cure this disease has appeared, why don't we use it? In fact, you want to kill us from the essence? Exclamation mark. This kind of speech is very popular. Because it is not only mutants who shout this, but also a group of radical anti-mutants who shout this. They shouted, now is the best time to eliminate mutants, and Congress should not sit idly by. Well, a very ridiculous scene appeared. Mutants and anti-mutant radicals actually joined together to put pressure on Congress. There are not only ordinary people here, but also some political and business celebrities. Congress feels really overwhelmed, and the impact of this incident has exceeded their expectations. Tuvalu obviously wants to get a sum of money by making a fortune out of nothing. Katie made it very clear at the time, even using the elimination of Russian nuclear weapons as an analogy. Because the economic situation of Russia and the CIS countries has always been bad, especially after the emergence of new energy, it has shown a state of near collapse. So the United States and other Western countries provided them with some funds on the condition of destroying nuclear weapons. In the past 10 years, Western countries including the United States have provided Russia and other countries with a total of up to $6.4 billion in financial assistance, and most of it is free. It sounds a bit incomprehensible at first, but it is not difficult to understand after thinking deeply. The United States and other countries are using money to eliminate potential war threats. For a country with rich wealth like the United States, things that can be settled with money are not called things. It is best not to talk nonsense if you can spend money, and it is best not to take action if you can. This is the attitude of the United States. Because once you take action, the money will be spent like water. You must know that the local wars in the Middle East for more than 10 years have seriously dragged down the U.S. economy. Thousands of trillions of dollars have evaporated without knowing what they did. So after the emergence of new energy, countries around the world including the United States quickly withdrew from the Middle East. Everyone left the quagmire tacitly, which was a bottomless pit of burning money. And it has to be filled with human lives. It is not worth it no matter how you look at it. And now Congress is also under such external pressure. Should Tuvalu take a large sum of money for nothing, or continue to fight to the death? Well, fighting to the death is impossible. There was even a small-scale riot in Kansas. It is a bit exaggerated to call it a riot. It was just that a dozen Epsilon level and Delta level mutants sneaked into a farm and burned the whole farm. Fortunately, there were no casualties, only some animals on the farm were burned to death. Under normal circumstances, this is an ordinary arson case, but the difference is that this farm belongs to the current US president. This is where he plans to retire at the end of the year. This incident made His Excellency the President very angry. But he couldn't lose his temper. Because these people left messages on the internet before they were arrested after burning the farm. They are using this way to remind the authorities that if you make us unable to survive, then we will also make you unable to survive. No matter what kind of superior person you are, we are not afraid even if you are the leader of a country. Anyway, we have nothing left. The actions of these 16 mutants caused an uproar in American society. Some people condemned their actions and believed that this was a terrorist attack. But there was another group of people who loudly refuted. This is just a means to express their demands. Although the means are fierce, the meaning of the expression is very clear. Live or die. They are just using this method to express their desire to survive. Some people held up the US Constitution and shouted loudly. The right to survive is the most basic right of every citizen. This will not change because this person is a mutant or an ordinary person. The government's silent silence is making us lose this most basic right. The actions of John and the other 16 mutants once again push the government to the forefront. The political influence of this incident is far-reaching, because they were prepared to expose it to major news media around the world from the beginning. So the US government alone cannot suppress this incident. And as John said, what he did was not a terrorist attack. At most, it was a planned arson case. There were no casualties in this case, and they even used their mutant abilities to control the fire and prevent it from spreading beyond the farm. It can be said that there were no other victims except the unlucky president who lost all the property of a farm. This incident deeply inspired the mutants who are still watching, making them more united. And this incident also made some senior officials in the government panic. Today they can burn the president's farm, and tomorrow they can burn their own houses. If people are forced into a desperate situation, they will do anything. Especially Latvia, after learning about this incident, was crazy and fanned the flames behind the scenes. The bigwigs on Capitol Hill can even hear the dictator Doom's proud laughter in their dreams. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, some people were sleepless because of this laughter. The proposal to contact Tuvalu again was put on the table. And this time Tuvalu took the lead. It is foreseeable that countries around the world will be slaughtered because of this incident. Everyone suddenly realized that if they had talked to Katie at the time, maybe there wouldn't be so much trouble. If it weren't for Doom's intervention, we should have taken the initiative. Those leaders who were cheated instantly gnashed their teeth in hatred towards Doom. However, Doom, who was far away in Latvia, didn't care at all, even if he knew that so many people hated him and hated him so much that he couldn't sleep. Doom would not feel anything other than becoming happier. The incident with John and the other 16 people was a sudden change, an emergency that was beyond the expectations of Li Ji and other members of the Illuminati. Although the means were fierce, it pushed things in the direction everyone expected. The Illuminati still respected the behavior of John and others. What they did was to issue the greatest protest within a reasonable range. At every social turning point, there will always be countless such people standing up. The power of human nature always drives this society to progress while maintaining the most basic morality. Professor Charles has already started to act. He is contacting his students to see if he can help John and his group. Because they have been sued in court and are facing multiple charges, Charles thinks he should help these people fight the lawsuit. It is impossible to get rid of the crime completely, but at least the charges of terrorist attacks should be eliminated and only one crime of arson should be admitted. Otherwise, if the other charges are added together, he might be sentenced to death. Although arson is also a felony, he will be released after 10 years in prison. Charles is busy with his own lawsuit. Li Ji and others have no time to spare to help him. Because there is a more important thing coming. Dr. Reid and 4 others have set off from the moon and are about to return to the Earth with several tons of helium-3 ore. They set off on April Fool's Day last year. On such a joke-like holiday, they set foot on the moon with mankind's desire for a new century. And now they are coming back. Also on April 1st, they will return to the Earth from the moon full of the world's expectations. On April Fool's Day, April 1st, is the Earth ready to enter the beginning of a new era? Chapter 871 Return and Accident. Earth-Moon Orbit. The Ark is flying towards the Earth. Dr. Reid and his team have completed a 1-year lunar scientific expedition and mine construction project. Although the 4 people were trapped on the moon this year, and there was almost nothing around except the bare craters, the 4 people's lives were not boring. It can even be said that they were very fulfilled. Because they had too many things to do. The Ark designed and built by Tony Stark is completely different from traditional solid-fuel rockets. Using the arc reactor as the core power to drive the spacecraft, the weight of the spacecraft is reduced rapidly. If a traditional solid-fuel rocket wants to send 1 gram of weight into space, it needs to invest tens or hundreds of grams of solid fuel. From the perspective of thrust-to-weight ratio, this is an extremely energy-consuming method. The emergence of the arc reactor has changed this phenomenon. The engine of the spacecraft has become lighter, and the weight of the energy carried is also less. The energy consumption that traditional solid fuel requires hundreds or thousands of tons to complete is controlled to hundreds of kilograms a year. Calculated based on the arc reactor and the iron armor used by Tony himself. The weight of the arc reactor, which can support him for 1 or 2 ultra-high-intensity operations, is only controlled at about 900 grams. This size and weight advantage inherently crushes traditional spacecraft. Therefore, the Ark spacecraft can break through the atmosphere alone without the help of external rocket thrusters. It can also achieve round trips between the Earth and the Moon, and even bring back tons of ore. Moreover, the energy required to set up a mining site on the Moon comes entirely from the Ark reactor batteries carried by the extra person. If there were no such energy sources and it relied solely on solar energy like traditional space research, Dr. Reid and his team would not be able to build a basic mine, even if they worked themselves to death. The establishment of a helium-3 mine and the construction of an ecological zone that can accommodate 200 people to work and live are the main projects that Dr. Reid and his 4 companions have been busy with on the Moon for a year. Of course, there is also a space research station belonging to Dr. Reid himself to allow him to study dark matter and antimatter, as well as cosmic rays and radiation. In addition, a more advanced astronomical telescope for observing the sun, not the kind used by the naked eye. These devices can work better on the moon than on the Earth, because the moon has no atmosphere and there is not as much electromagnetic interference as on the Earth. Houston, this is Arc 1. We have left the lunar orbit and are heading for the Earth. After a year of consumption, the remaining energy of the spacecraft is limited. In order to ensure that there is energy reserved for dealing with emergencies, we are now starting to cruise at a very low speed. It is expected to enter the Earth's orbit in 58 hours. Johnny Stone, the main pilot of the spacecraft, is in contact with the Houston Space Agency. This is a handsome young man. There is a sharp feeling in his eyebrows. He is the younger brother of Dr. Reed's fiancée Susan Stone. He is also a former Air Force pilot. But this kid is tired of playing with airplanes on the Earth and has always wanted to enter space. In his words, the height of the Earth is limited, and only in the universe can I feel free. This is a young man who is deeply influenced by the Star Wars culture. So after learning that his brother-in-law Dr. Reed might go to the moon, he tried every means to join this team. Originally, Tony Stark did not invite Johnny. This guy got in through the backdoor relationship of his sister Susan. Fortunately, he was a top pilot before, so even though this guy had no scientific literacy, Tony still gave him a break considering the problem of spaceship driving. This also allowed Johnny to successfully fulfill his dream and become a starship pilot. No, not yet. This ship can only be regarded as a scientific research cargo ship at best. My dream is to be able to fly my own X-Wing fighter in space just like I can fly an F-22 on Earth. The X-Wing fighter Johnny mentioned is a space fighter imagined out of thin air by George Lucas in the Star Wars movie. Ben Graham, Reed's deputy and the mechanical maintenance worker for the entire team, smiled when he heard what Johnny said. Are you thinking too much, Johnny? This is already the most advanced spacecraft on Earth. We can start from Earth and carry so many equipment, and support us in doing so many things on the moon. At the same time, we can mine so many ores and ship them back. Don't you think it's not enough? When Armstrong first landed on the moon, there was only a space capsule that looked like a big bell. They can only move forward in the universe by inertia and gravity, and the only thing they can do is to slightly adjust the angle of travel. Our spacecraft is already very good. Tony is an amazing man. Ben Graham is tall and strong, but he looks honest and looks like a good man. Tony Stark is an outstanding person. The spacecraft he designed is excellent, but that doesn't mean it's enough. Haven't you heard the news? The moon can receive satellite signals, but there is a big delay. Tony and Captain Rogers have convinced various countries, and they are preparing for the first interstellar port sky city for mankind. Johnny looked excited. They are going to start construction in the geosynchronous orbit, and this is a place that can accommodate thousands of people to work and live for a long time. I even heard that Tony Stark plans to build a real interstellar battleship on it. So cool. I want to join SWRD and become a real space warrior. Johnny's excitement is beyond words. He is like a middle school boy obsessed with interstellar space wars. Susan really has no idea about this brother who is several years younger than her. It is true that an elder sister is like a mother. Susan sometimes feels like Johnny's mother. She can't help but control him in everything. Johnny, it's not that easy to get into SWRD, especially your idea. Others may not choose you as a space pilot. But is there anyone on Earth who is more experienced than me now? Johnny raised his eyebrows. I am the ace pilot on Earth with the most flight time in space driving. Yes. It's just a detour between the Earth and the moon. With Reed and me here, even if an 80-year-old lady is sitting in your seat, she can complete this job. Ben teased Johnny mercilessly. Dr. Reed looked at them with a smile. The 1-year work on the moon was over. It was hard, but more exciting. A little lonely, but with a greater sense of accomplishment. Susan smiled at her fiancé and asked quietly, "What's the first thing you want to do when you return to Earth?" Dr. Reed answered without thinking, "Summarize the 1-year research on the moon and publish it." Susan was a little upset when she heard this answer. Johnny looked at his sister and future brother-in-law and felt that something was wrong. He couldn't help but whistled. Dr. Reed saw Johnny winking at him, and he immediately realized that he had said the wrong thing. Of course, before that, we have to complete our wedding ceremony. Susan was still angry, and Dr. Reed had to find a topic. He asked the question again, "So Susan, what is the first thing you want to do when you return to Earth?" Susan glanced at Reed, and then said, "Go shopping at the shopping center, and then go to Watson's to buy cosmetics. Didn't Tony develop some very powerful beauty products during our time on the moon? The Dawn Magic Water series of products. I think it's very good. I'll buy a dozen sets and try them out. I've been on the moon for so long, and I feel that my skin is getting worse and worse due to the lack of protection from the atmosphere." Susan's answer made Reed a little at a loss for words, and then Susan's next sentence made Dr. Reed even more critical. "Of course, these are all paid with your card." Puff. Ben couldn't help laughing in the driver's seat. And Johnny was still winking at Reed, and then lip-syncing. "Those things are very expensive. You're going to go bankrupt this time." Dr. Reed couldn't help but hold his forehead. This is the result of not being able to speak. Just when Dr. Reed and his team were preparing to return to Earth, Tony Stark suddenly received two messages. One was from the Venus base, and the other was from Houston. The message from Venus came earlier. The messages from both places conveyed the same content, that is, in the past 30 minutes, the sun had experienced a violent explosion without any signs. A violent solar wind has formed in the solar system, and in the universe, a strong solar wind is like encountering a level 10 typhoon wave on the sea. It doesn't matter at ordinary times, but now the Ark spacecraft is carrying the new energy hope of mankind back. According to calculations, when the first wave of solar wind arrives near the Earth, the Ark spacecraft will bear the brunt. They will be like a fishing boat facing a typhoon without any shelter on the sea. P.S. I went out to buy decoration materials early in the morning and was busy until noon before returning. And now I have only finished writing the first chapter of today. I am tired and I will go to sleep first. Also ask for a vote. Chapter 872 Rescue Plan. Inside the Venus base, the leaders of the Illuminati were holding an emergency consultation meeting. It was about the solar storm and how to rescue Dr. Reed and the other four. A powerful solar storm has erupted. There were no signs before, and we didn't detect any suspicious signs. The activity of sunspots has been normal during this period. Dr. Hank said this with a serious face, and he didn't even have time to push his black-framed glasses. It is a deeper implosion. Unless we can build an observation station near the sun, our means of inspection are still limited. In particular, the sun itself is a huge energy radiation source, and most energy monitoring tools cannot conduct a deeper exploration of the sun. We will be blocked by the huge electromagnetic radiation and thermal radiation of the sun. Most of the exploration, Tony said his inference, his face was not good. Since our ancestors, the Earth has enjoyed the sun for billions of years, but we have only conducted real research on the sun for a few decades, and we know too little about the sun. Now is not the time to talk about this, Tony. Captain Rogers interrupted Tony, who had just rushed over from the SWORD. What we need now is to save Dr. Reed and his crew. Can the Ark survive this solar wind? Tony's face changed. You know, every gram of extra weight on a spacecraft is a waste. I designed the Ark to be extremely lightweight. Leegi patted the table. Speak human language. Well, the thinnest part on the Ark is only 5 millimeters, which means that Dr. Reed and his crew are only 5 millimeters away from the cold space. I have designed a shielding umbrella to resist the solar wind, but it is for them to use on the moon and can only shield a semicircular surface, while the solar wind in space is 360 degrees. Tony didn't need to say the rest, because he made it clear without saying it. The solar wind will seriously interfere with the electronic equipment of the Ark. Even if Reed and his crew are wearing spacesuits and staying in the most solid lifeboat in the spacecraft to avoid being directly radiated to death by the solar wind, the electronic failure caused by the storm will also cause all the electronic equipment of the Ark to fail, and then it will become a space coffin. Tony's description is already the best case. Dr. Banner frowned and asked, I remember that the Ark's flight speed is a little faster than those space shuttles. Can't they land on the Earth before the solar wind arrives? Tony shook his head. No, they have been on the moon for a year. And they have done a lot of scientific research projects, and built a whole living area and mine. There is not much energy left. The reserved energy is just some emergency. If they speed up to fly to the Earth, there will be no fuel to slow down when entering the atmosphere. If they exceed the designed maximum speed and enter the atmosphere, they will disintegrate directly. Leegi shook his head. Tony launched the helium-3 mining plan in a hurry, and his relationship with Tony was not that good at that time. Tony didn't tell him, and Tony even had a falling out with Pepper Potts and Dr. Ethan because of this matter. It even caused chaos in Eastern Europe. Now it seems that Tony's original plan was too messy, a bit like a decision made in a fit of anger. It was also because of this incident that Tony calmed down and began to consider the establishment of the Illuminati. Does that mean it's impossible for Dr. Reed and the others to save themselves? Luigi asked Tony, and Tony nodded helplessly. Luigi said he understood. Then he said to Thor, "Get ready, Thor, I need you to appear once. You can be Thor or anything else. We can't let Dr. Reed and the other four die in space like this." Luigi vaguely remembered that the Fantastic Four mutated after being blown by the solar wind, but his entry into this world has changed a lot of things. He doesn't guarantee that the rest of the things will proceed according to the events he knows. And he will hand over the fate of Dr. Reed and the other four to the so-called plot fate? And then do nothing? Especially now that he has the ability to save them, and it is easy for him. Luigi can't just sit back and watch. Putting aside the value of the helium-3 ore carried in the Ark spacecraft, Dr. Reed and the other four are just pioneers of the Earth's march into space. The four of them spent a lonely year on the moon. Even if they don't say it, everyone knows it. 1 year of space life, heavy workload, and the loneliness of having to solve problems with only 4 people. They managed it all. Luigi didn't know much about Dr. Reed's previous personality, but this didn't stop him from admiring the current Dr. Reed. He is a pioneer of mankind's march into the space age. How could such a pioneer die in space? Friday, the artificial intelligence of the Venus base, prepare 32 Twin Snake-class battleships. I need them now. Luigi is the actual commander of the Venus fleet. In the first directive, he is the only one who has the right to mobilize the Venus fleet. Okay, Commander. The battleships are ready. It is expected to be launched in 40 minutes. Friday's voice, which sounds very much like Pepper, answered. Luigi nodded to Thor and motioned him to follow him. Wait, what's your plan? Are you going straight there? Captain Rogers stopped Luigi. There are still more than 50 hours left. We have to think about how to deal with this matter first. If there is no way out, you can show up directly with Thor. Captain Rogers was right. Although Venus is not close to the moon, it is just a matter of jump for the Venus fleet. Luigi looked at Captain Rogers and said, I just don't want any accidents to happen. The Twin Snake-class battleships will turn on the stealth mode and then turn on the surface protection to form a protective circle to wrap the Ark, so as to help them resist and reduce the impact of the solar wind. This is the least likely way to be discovered. Bringing Thor is just in case. What Luigi said made sense. Captain Rogers nodded in agreement with Luigi's plan. This is probably the best way. Anyway, Captain Rogers just heard some conversations between NSNA technical officials in the Sky Sword Bureau. They said that there was no good way and they could only let Dr. Reed and the other four leave it to fate. Several other members of the Illuminati agreed with Luigi's idea. Luigi was quite quick-witted to come up with a plan for an invisible fortress in an instant. In order to ensure that no other accidents would occur, other bigwigs in the Illuminati said that they would let Luigi and Thor prepare first. Dr. Banner, who joined first, had some ideas after thinking about the plan just proposed by Luigi. He frowned for a moment, then relaxed his brows and said to everyone, this is actually a good opportunity for us. Everyone looked at Dr. Banner. Dr. Banner stood up and said, the Illuminati is very powerful. The combined energy of everyone present can easily change the direction of the Earth. It can even be said that the Venus fleet can beat the Earth without any chance of fighting back. We have been trying to play the role of a hen protecting her chicks, but the chicks will grow up one day. I have been saying that the Earth should learn to grow up. The universe is magnificent and dangerous. This will not be the last time. Maybe we should try to let the Earth solve this problem by itself. Jason's plan just now gave me an inspiration. I think I can give it a try. Dr. Banner raised a finger and said with a smile. P.S. There will be another update later. There will be 3 updates today. Please vote. Chapter 873. At this moment, the Earth's thousands of stars are glittering. 3rd update, please vote and subscribe. Abraham is an American with a typical middle-aged white appearance, high nose, slightly fat and some slight baldness. He is currently working for NASA as a senior technician responsible for space monitoring and rocket launch monitoring. As the world's most powerful space agency, NASA has always been the coordinate of the world's aerospace industry. The first to land on the moon, the first space shuttle. The continuous space launch rockets in the space race are amazing. There is also the Hubble telescope that is enough to be recorded in the annals of human history. All of this is NASA's pride. Even though the space shuttle has been banned and eliminated, many countries still do not have the ability to manufacture space shuttles. In addition, last year Stark Industries manufactured the Ark spacecraft for launch. Although the main technology came from Tony Stark, NASA also invested in it. Abraham will not fail to understand the significance of the Ark, which is enough to be recorded in the annals of history. But now the Ark has encountered a big problem. A sudden solar wind disrupted all plans. The Ark, which was originally preparing to return, may face the solar wind in the universe. As an old technician, Abraham knows what this means. There is not much that people on Earth can do. This is not a Hollywood blockbuster, nor is it The Martian starring Matt Damon. In fact, NASA can do little except observing the solar wind and trying to find the most suitable coordinates for avoiding the least radiation. A group of scientists have been arguing in the office. They can't come up with any good ideas. If the space self-rescue operation of Apollo 13, note, was a miracle, then the Ark spacecraft can only pray for a miracle to happen again. Coffee, Abraham. A colleague went out to the restaurant and brought Abraham a cup of coffee. Abraham took the coffee and thanked him. He continued to use it to refresh himself. He has been staring at the monitor for nearly 6 hours. In fact, Abraham has no way to go home since the solar wind eruption. Almost all senior technicians in NASA are like this. Even if they can't do anything, they can't leave. In a high-sounding word, the Ark is related to the future of mankind. This is the first time that human beings have truly taken their own steps to explore the universe. This is no longer the childish game of picking up shells on the beach in the past few decades, but a prelude to setting sail. Whether the Ark is successful or not is of vital importance to human exploration of space. What can we do here? A colleague asked softly beside Abraham. Abraham shook his head. Pray. As a scientific and technological personnel, he finally had to place his hope on God. Abraham felt that this was a kind of irony. Just when he was not in a good mood, there was a commotion outside. Just when he was about to go outside to find out what was going on, a loud shout came from outside. Tony Stark is flying and wearing an iron armor. Abraham and other colleagues were curious and ran towards the source of the sound. What was Tony doing here at this time? Everyone knew that the Ark was Tony Stark's hard work, and he would definitely not allow this spacecraft to have any accidents. The golden red steel armor flew toward the office of the NASA director with a roar, and flew directly inside. This startled the director, who was typing on the computer. Then the director's secretary rushed in and pointed at Iron Man and said to the director, "Sir, I don't have time to stop him." The director couldn't help rolling his eyes. This was nonsense. If you could stop Iron Man, then why would you be on duty at the door of my office? He waved his hand to signal the secretary to go out. Okay, I see. I think Mr. Stark wants to talk to me about something. After the secretary left the room, the director turned to look at Iron Man. Mr. Tony Stark, it's a bit impolite for you to come in like this. Tony did not take off his steel mask, but said as Iron Man, I know, so I apologize. But now is an extraordinary period. I think you should be able to understand. The NASA director nodded. I know, so I didn't call the police just now. Tony smirked. What a humor. This is a way to have fun in misery. The Ark is facing a big problem. My scientists have started closed-door consultations, but there has been no progress. The director said with a frown, this feeling is terrible, more desperate than the Apollo 13 accident. So we need to think of other ways. Tony said this, and his tone made the director feel something different. The director asked tentatively, have you thought of a way? Remember the other plan I mentioned before? Tony Stark asked. What? The director did not react immediately. Starport Sky City. Tony reminded. What does this matter? The director still did not connect the two things together. The Ark and Sky City are two different things. It's the same thing. Tony reminded. It's actually the same thing. The Starport plan has been approved by the Earth Federation, and we started the preparation work a long time ago. I know this. In fact, including China and the European Space Agency, they have already started. Since the Ark was launched last year and began to mine helium-3. Tony pointed at the director. I know, including NASA, you are all making rockets like crazy. Just like the previous space race, you have stockpiled a lot of rockets, and your actions are too obvious. I even heard that a fool came up with something called a relay plan to be a backup if I don't provide the Ark spacecraft technology. What Tony said was not false. Including China, the European Space Agency, and other countries with independent space capabilities have been preparing for the space age for more than a year. Not all countries can get the Ark spacecraft, and even if they can, they have to make preparations for both. In addition, Tony proposed the starport plan later, which made countries around the world continue to prepare their own space plans. Everyone can realize that the space age has really arrived and is no longer a plot in science fiction novels. The director neither admitted nor denied Tony Stark's statement. He just said lightly, "So what do you want to say?" "I need to requisition these rockets." Tony Stark said bluntly, "I need these rockets to save the Ark." This is the first time in human history that such a big step has been taken into the universe, and failure is absolutely not allowed. The director did not deny this. Human beings are just an insignificant civilization in the universe. Especially in the Battle of New York, humans truly witnessed a powerful alien civilization. Even if the other party did not show any malice, people still cannot let down their guard. In this case, NASA's power is further expanded, and the Star Wars plan proposed by the Reagan administration was brought up again. However, this time the target of the Star Wars has changed from humans on Earth to aliens outside. "I need to use these rockets to start carrying the first batch of materials for building the starport. 2 of the 4 arcs that Stark Group is going to deliver to the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council this year are now close to completion, and I will also take the risk to use them," Tony said very seriously. The director frowned. "What do you want to do? Use all your strength to build a fortress that shields the solar wind?" Tony said this, and there was no frivolity in his tone, only endless seriousness. The shell materials of the starport were produced when the project was established. They are armors that are strong enough to resist the solar wind. I will use these armors to build a space fortress for the Ark. Let them have a place to hide from this solar wind. It is obviously impossible for the 2 Ark spacecrafts that have not been completely completed to transport so many and heavy materials into space. So I need all of your rockets. I will bring iron armor in the Ark spacecraft and let them adjust the position of these armors in space. As long as the timing is just right, we can let the Ark escape the solar winds without any danger. Tony revealed his plan in full. To be precise, this is not his plan but Dr. Banner's plan. His inspiration came from the Invisible Fortress plan proposed by Li Ji. At that time, Dr. Banner proposed this idea. The Starport project has begun. But the Earth Federation is arguing about which route it should take on that orbit. In fact, we should have started to launch and build the first base a long time ago. But because of the constant interests involved, our pace of progress has been damaged. The Ark is a crisis but also a turning point. We seize this opportunity to directly launch the Starport plan to shut up those politicians. And there is a more important point. We can't protect the Earth forever. Even the most powerful heroes will fall one day, and no matter how well-intentioned an organization is, it will degenerate one day. We have great power, so we are more likely to degenerate. Dr. Banner said bluntly. Jason found me and asked me to join the Illuminati because he didn't want everyone to be in such a situation. He hoped to use fresh blood to cool everyone's brains. Now I think it's time for me to play a role. We can't do everything for the Earth. This is unrealistic. We need to let the Earth Federation truly unite and do something real. Let them understand how small they are in this vast universe. The ununited Earth is extremely vulnerable when facing real alien threats. A simple solar wind can destroy the hope and future of mankind. Banner turned his head and looked in the direction of Li Ji. And even if this plan fails, Jason's Starfleet and Thor will back it up. If it doesn't work, let them rescue Dr. Reed and the others. This won't be a big loss. Li Ji nodded, and he also agreed with Dr. Banner's idea. Anyway, he couldn't think of Dr. Banner's idea, not that he couldn't think of this way of doing things. It was because he lacked enough scientific knowledge and couldn't calculate how the entire plan should be arranged like Dr. Banner. This is a very professional ability, not just a simple pot throwing or something. This is not Li Ji's strong point. At NASA, the director is weighing the pros and cons. But just as Tony said, this is the first real space travel for mankind, and it is also the first step for mankind to explore extraterrestrial civilizations. This step cannot be lost. Otherwise, will mankind still have the confidence to take the second step? And the whole world is waiting for the return of this batch of helium-3 ore. So without thinking too much, as an old astronaut, the director decided to do something that would go down in history in the late stage of his career. He said to Tony, "It's not enough for you to just convince me about this matter, you also need to convince the president." Iron Man spread his hands, already convinced. "What? I mean, I'm not here." The mask of the Iron Man armor opened, and there was no one inside. Tony only talked to the director by remote control. He is really too busy now, because he needs to meet the leaders of space agencies in various countries around the world. And the director of SWRD is negotiating with leaders of various countries, pushing everyone to agree to this plan. The Starport plan is not just for individuals or countries. The Ark and Helium-3 are not just the future of a country. They are related to the direction of our world. Whether from a political or economic and social perspective, we need to unite to do this. Captain Rogers emphasized to the leaders through a video conference. We are not alone in the universe. This universe has enemies and friends. The history of human development has told us that the most powerful civilizations often perish in civil strife. And the Earth civilization is still a long way from being powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, the Earth Federation should do something. Not only for us, but also for our descendants. This era needs role models. The President of the United States was the first to vote in favor. I agree. I'm going to retire anyway. Then came China, which has always cooperated with and fought against the United States. The leader also voted in favor. If we can't reach a basic agreement even on such a small matter, then our civilization will not be far from extinction. Then came Britain, France, Russia, Germany. Finally, even Latvia, which has always been against other countries, expressed its willingness to lend its domestic rockets and preventive arc spacecraft. To be honest, this matter scared a lot of people. No one knew when Doom was so kind. He would help Americans. Then a message came out. Doom, Susan and Reed were college classmates, and it was said that they had a good relationship. The Houston Space Launch Center in the United States was extremely busy. Everyone was preparing for an emergency launch. In addition to the busy people, there were Iron Man's Iron Team and the Army sent from the military wearing the elf armor produced by Oscorp to help. These people and machines are extremely powerful, and they are not afraid of those toxic and harmful products. Their joining made the preparations extremely fast. At the South China Sea launch site, a huge solid-fuel rocket was being transferred to the launch pad at a slow speed by hundreds of mutants who were proficient in magnetic field control. At the European Space Launch Center, the rocket launcher that had been secretly prepared was pushed onto the launch pad and was making final preparations. At the Plesetsk base, a huge uncrewed machine neatly loaded the materials delivered by the Iron Man team into the transport cabin outside the rocket launcher. Space centers around the world seemed to be busy with the same thing at the same time. For the first time, the world was in the same position and frequency because of the same thing. At 10 p.m. on March 30th, U.S. time, the weather, clear, wind speed, low. Abraham was about to carry out another launch mission. This was the 25th time he had done this in his career. After doing this so many times, he should have been used to it. But today he still couldn't suppress his excitement. The reason for this excitement was hard to describe, because they were saving their compatriots outside the Earth? Or was it because this was the first time that astronauts around the world worked together? Abraham shook his head and drove all distracting thoughts out of his mind. Because he needed to hold his breath and concentrate, when the countdown ended, he calmly pressed the launch button. The rocket ignited successfully, and the huge flame illuminated the entire Houston Space Launch Center. The rocket took off with huge light and heat. It was like the sun rising slowly in the dark night, and the burning flame could be seen even from tens or hundreds of kilometers away. This is the sun representing the rise of human civilization, and it carries the hope and persistence of mankind. We are like children lighting a bonfire in a terrible dark forest in the dark and cold universe. There are always terrible eyes in the darkness spying on this erratic flame that seems to be extinguished at any time. The flame may be weak or it may be an attraction and temptation. But when the light and heat shine cannot be ignored, it is a deterrent. From Houston to the South China Sea, from Tanegashima to San Marco, groups of flames rose one after another. They are like the morning stars linked by humans, moving towards the dark and silent universe. They declare to the world, we are here, and we will not retreat. First the first one, then the second, then the third and fourth, and then it spreads to the number you can count quickly. These morning stars carrying human civilization are rising from the earth without stopping. They are not retreating or afraid. They are emitting their light and heat wantonly. At this moment, the Earth is shining with thousands of stars. P.S. 3 more chapters, 4,800 words, please vote. Chapter 874 My Existence. Between the Earth and the Moon, the Ark spacecraft was sailing in the lonely universe. Johnny's face was not very good, because they had received news from Houston that a huge solar storm was heading towards the Earth. And from the time calculation, the time when the solar wind arrived was just when the Ark would be completely exposed to the solar wind. Johnny was not a fool, although he was not a scientist. But he had an extremely smart sister and an equally smart brother-in-law. Their explanation made it very clear what they would face next. There was no help in space, and the possibility of their survival directly exposed to the solar wind was infinitely close to zero. To be honest, Johnny was ready to sacrifice. Although his brother-in-law was still calculating something quickly, trying to avoid a solar storm. But, forget it, do your best and leave it to fate. Just when Johnny wanted to give up, a new message came from Houston. The one who delivered the message was Abraham, the monitor who had been responsible for contacting him. Ark 1, I have a message for you now. The ground is ready to rescue you. Please don't give up. As soon as Abraham finished speaking, Johnny, who was originally a little depressed, brightened up. Dr. Reid also put down the formulas and flight angle calculations with Ben and Susan, and hurried to the bridge. Houston, this is Ark 1, what are your plans? Don't be too anxious, Dr. Reid. You have to calm down. Our next plan still requires your calm mind. The person who spoke now was no longer Abraham. Dr. Reid was very familiar with this voice. Tony. Dr. Reid had already heard who the owner of the voice was. It's me. We have developed a rescue plan. I spent a lot of effort to save you. I found a way to convince the space agencies of various countries in the world and mobilized almost all the rockets and spacecraft on the Earth. Now they have been launched into space. They are equipped with the outer armor I plan to use to build the Sky City. Tony Stark told Dr. Banner's plan in its entirety. I will use 2 nearly completed arcs, which will carry my Iron Warriors into space. Then use the armor materials carried by those rockets to build a windproof fortress for you within a limited time. According to our calculations, you only need to perform a low-power ignition to get to the fortress within the limited time and avoid a solar storm. Okay, Tony. Explain the steps in detail. Dr. Reid didn't waste any words. He didn't want to die in space. He still had a lot of things to do. In fact, Dr. Reid was overthinking, because even if the rescue failed, they wouldn't really be in danger. Because Lee Ji took Thor and Magneto on the battleship that had been prepared long ago, and escorted them in the dark. Thor was responsible for coming forward to solve the problem if he was exposed. And Magneto was prepared to let him intervene and solve the problem if there was a problem in building the space fortress. For Magneto, moving and gluing some metal products in space was easier than playing with Lego blocks. Because playing with Lego requires reading the instructions, but this does not require. Lee Ji was the commander of the entire fleet, and when necessary, he commanded the fleet to rescue Dr. Reid and his 4 companions. Because this was not a combat mission, there was no need to stay in the command cabin of the Venus base. Lee Ji also boarded the battleship and sailed in space for the first time. This is the Earth. This was the first time Lee Ji looked at the Earth in this way from space. From Venus, the Earth was just a small dot. And looking at the Earth between the Earth and the Moon, Lee Ji saw the magnificent beauty of the Earth from space this time. The planet with azure as the main color was colorful. In addition to the blue sea, there were white clouds, green grasslands, and yellow deserts. This shocking feeling was not something that the colorful pages in the geography textbook could give. This is the Earth. Magneto Mosaic stood beside Lee Ji and repeated a sentence. Although it was the same words, the tone and tone were completely different. Lee Ji was an exclamation and Mosaic was an affirmation. This is my home, the place I fought for. She is magnificent and beautiful. She is the most beautiful gem in this universe. Lee Ji said with emotion. Magneto poured cold water on him. That's because you haven't seen other magnificent and beautiful planets. Lee Ji nodded and did not refute. I have indeed not seen other planets, but this does not prevent me from agreeing with the beauty of the Earth. Because I am an Earthling, and this is where we were born. Billions of years ago, we have been marked by this planet. We are her descendants, and it was she who gave birth to us. No matter where we will sail in the future cosmic era, this will always be our home. She has countless beauties. Mosaic seemed to deliberately contradict Li Ji and said, "But this homeland breeds not only beauty. There are also countless ugliness and wars. You and I have seen a lot, haven't we? You even participated in a lot of it." Li Ji did not deny this. "Yes, I never deny this. But I will never lose sight of the beauty after seeing the ugliness. It is precisely because of the ugliness that makes us feel the preciousness of beauty. The world is always like this: disputes, riots, discrimination and so on. I don't know who can end all this. I didn't think anyone could end it from the beginning. I never believed in the existence of a beautiful utopia." Mosaic looked at Li Ji in surprise. "I thought you have been working in this direction. You often say that you want to make the world a better place." Li Ji looked at the magnificent earth outside the window. "Yes, I don't deny it. I am very contradictory. I don't believe that there is a utopia in this world, nor do I believe that the ugliness of mankind will be completely eliminated. But I will never give up my ideas or stop my actions because of these. Human beings have never stopped fighting and confronting since the moment they were born, but we have been moving forward. Look at those predecessors who hope to build a utopia. Do they really believe that utopia exists? Or is it just a fantasy?" Li Ji turned his head to look at Mosaic. The smile on the corner of his mouth made Mosaic feel for the first time that Li Ji was very difficult to understand. Magneto asked in a somewhat incomprehensible way, "So what do you want?" Li Ji looked deeply in the direction of the earth. "What do I want? What I want is different in each period of time. In the past, I wanted to be content with a small fortune, and then I wanted something bigger. Now, what do I want?" Li Ji took a deep breath. "I came, I saw, and I pushed. I don't ask anyone to understand, but I need to prove to myself that I have existed deeply in this world. I am not the protagonist of this world, but the only protagonist in my life. To be honest, this world will be very different without me. And this is what I pursue. I am not an ordinary person, but an irreplaceable part of this world." Li Ji's eyes flashed with this kind of light. "I don't ask for a name in history, nor do I ask for immortality. I just want my existence to be unique in the world while I am alive." In the direction of the Earth, the first rocket has left the atmosphere carrying its cargo, and the first large-scale off-site rescue of the Earth's human beings is about to begin. P.S. I forgot to explain the note in the previous chapter. The story about Apollo 13, this is the third manned lunar landing program carried out by the United States. But the day after the launch, the rocket service module exploded. The astronauts were isolated and helpless in space, so they worked with scientists in Houston to use the moon slingshot effect to return to Earth without using any power. This was an aerospace feat in human history. Chapter 875: The Age of Setting Sail. The second stage rocket has separated, and the target is moving in the predetermined direction. Abraham was staring at the information displayed on the screen in NASA. The transport rocket launched by Houston had entered the predetermined orbit. The main body of the rocket has separated from the transport cabin. 3, 2, 1, separation. Abraham finished the countdown and pressed the button. The transport cabin attached to the rocket thruster was officially separated from the main body of the rocket. Now, without the power of the rocket, the transport cabin equipped with the outer armor of the starport could only begin to glide in the orbit around the Earth under the influence of the Earth's gravity. In addition to Houston, the United States, rockets launched by other countries in the world also began to reach the predetermined targets one by one. Rockets broke through the atmosphere one by one, carrying the huge heat and kinetic energy when breaking through the atmosphere, and they exhausted the last energy. However, rocket launches always fail sometimes, which is a probabilistic event. This launch operation to gather the power of the Earth to save Ark 1 is no exception. Several rockets shook violently when they were lifted into the atmosphere, and then exploded into a ball of fireworks in the air. Even one of the two Ark spacecrafts built by Tony Stark exploded. Because these two spaceships were not completely completed, but close to completion, Tony forcibly pulled these two spaceships for use, and many technical tests had not been done. So when one spaceship exploded, the more than 50 engineering and steel armors inside were all turned into a ball of ash and burned up in the atmosphere. However, this was all planned. Although it caused Tony a great economic loss, Dawn Company will further expand its production capacity this year. Now Dawn 101 and Magic Skin Water are in short supply, and Tony's losses can be easily recovered by just a slight increase in production capacity. So Tony did not change his face even when he heard that an Ark spaceship disintegrated in the atmosphere. He could afford to lose this little money, and Dawn Company would help him earn it back. And this time, the news event of the global cooperation to save Dr. Reed and his team instantly overwhelmed the heat of the previous mutant incident. Because this is the first time that the Earth Federation, temporarily, has done something that truly fits the identity of this organization. And this time, from China to the United States, from the Southern Hemisphere to the Northern Hemisphere, almost all reporters and self-media around the world have begun to act. This was an operation called the Great Rescue. The universe is very dangerous and dark. But we can't stop. The United States stopped the moon landing after the Apollo 13 accident. We can't let this happen again. Captain Rogers acted as a temporary spokesperson for the Earth Federation in front of all the news media. We have wasted decades, and we can't wait for decades. This time we unite and show our strength. A solar wind is insignificant in the universe. Entering the cosmic age, it is just like the bad weather we have to face occasionally. We can't be defeated by such a small thing. Because there will be more difficulties waiting for us in the future. We are a wave, insignificant. Only when we gather together can we form an ocean. Captain Rogers' speech was broadcast to the world with the news media. At this time, reporters from various countries also rushed to various scenes to collect first-hand news materials. This is the Associated Press. We are currently outside the Kennedy Space Center. In the past 12 hours, we have launched 3 space rockets for this rescue. Xinhua News Agency reporter, this is the Wenchang Launch Center in the South My Country Sea. In order to save Dr. Reed and his team, our country has just launched space rockets to carry materials in succession at launch centers such as Wenchang, Jiuquan, and Zicheng earlier today. Here we invited the famous. The European Space Agency used the rockets originally reserved for the construction of Starport Sky City. This time, in order to rescue Dr. Reed and his team, we really felt that the Earth is connected. In front of the vast universe, we are nothing. Only by uniting can we go further in the darkness. These related reports spread rapidly, and almost everyone turned their attention to the outer space. This place has never been paid attention to by many Earthlings. It is too far away for them, so far away that it is unbelievable. Many people find it difficult to manage their 3 meals and work every day. How can they have the energy to watch the plots in those distant science fiction novels? But today, some people suddenly discovered that the plots in those science fiction novels are not as far away from their lives as they thought. They may be right next to them. Because along with this amazing rescue, there is also a recruitment plan for the construction of Starport Sky City. This is a suggestion made by Li Ji. Since Dr. Banner has already attracted the attention of the whole world. And let everyone understand that only unity can survive in the universe, so why not do more? For example, let the human beings on the Earth understand that in addition to the land under their feet, there is a wider world outside the Earth. With the heat of this rescue, the recruitment plan for Starport Sky City began. This is a project led by Stark Industries, and the technology mainly comes from Stark Group. And the target of this global recruitment is space construction workers. Simply put, this is a recruitment plan for construction workers, but when the word space is added in front of the construction workers, it looks particularly tall and grand. In addition to some talent selected and recommended by various countries themselves, Stark Industries also recruits globally. This is a strong request from Tony Stark. Or it is a strong request from Li Ji. Because only when people feel these things, the unknown and vastness in space are closely related to their own lives, can people feel the true arrival of the cosmic age. We need to push the entire era forward quickly. Li Ji said this to everyone at the time. And the reality is indeed like this. When helium-3 begins to be mined on a large scale and transported back to the Earth will be turned upside down. The heat of the news is constantly rising, whether it is about this cosmic rescue or the open recruitment of Starport Sky City. At this moment, the eyes of all Earthlings are focused on space for the first time. Just like the sensation caused by the first sea merchant returning to Portugal with a full load of oriental spices. The universe is the next place for mankind to set sail. Just like the adventurers who died in the ocean during the Age of Discovery, can the loneliness and danger of the universe really stop the pace of human progress? Standing on the interstellar battleship, Li Ji did not know what those people on Earth thought. Some people were already eager to move towards the arrival of the cosmic age. Because now he has more important things to do. All the prepared armor has begun to reach the predetermined target. The STEEL team transported by Tony has also arrived in space. Now they have to race against time to build a safe haven so that Dr. Reed and his 4 companions can avoid the solar wind. Luigi, Magneto, Max and Thor need to help secretly. Luigi glanced at Magneto and said, "It's up to you, Max. Tony lost 50 armors in space. I think you need to help secretly to complete the construction. I think this is easy for you, at least easier than building Lego Technics, right?" Max raised his eyebrows. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.